And so we close in on the inside of a tent that has been set up outside of the city of Freiburg, um, where one Arthur Wolf lies in a bed covered with bruises and marks from the night before. Um, when everyone had last seen him, he was, taking to a bridge as 20 of the Wakund were coming his way, and determined to be, a one-man barricade to keep them from going any further. Um, the as the night kind of flashes in Arthur's mind, there's like memories of like taking on the group of them, like most of them were used the loring style, which is like a pair of panzer hands, which in a lot of ways was almost the worst possible situation for Arthur because it meant a lot of the things that he was normally used to blocking, he was suddenly blocking against steel. The hits that he was taking were gauntleted, and they kind of know how to box too, which is like,
Oh, it's a pain in the ass.
um, the whatever else Arthur is very clear that like he earned some respect by virtue of the fact that he's like here in a tent and not like off the side of the bridge in the water. Um, and uh like there was no like working over at the end of it. Does that make sense? Like it wasn't like they got him down and just like pummeled him on the ground. And does that make sense? Like he is fully all the bruises that he earned were while he was like on his feet. Does that make sense? Um, and it kind of there was continual movement throughout the entire thing. The bridge allowed it to kind of go like one way to the next, and instead of getting into like Steinholt, he kind of like transitioned things back into Lucifer, where there would at least be like barrels, walls, ways that he could potentially like close off avenues of approach and things like that. Um, but uh, as bad as it is, strangely, the beating that he got, and he took down like probably well over half of the Wakun that were there. Does that make sense? They're like none of them went down easy. Like none of these people were brutes. Does that make sense? He was routinely fighting against like henchman level people. And as it kind of came to an end, like what got him was one Wakun that literally just like powered through a wall. Like he was blocking fighting, and then one of the Wakund was who was like bigger and larger than the others went clean through a wall and tackled him to the ground and kind of got the like last few hits in to like take Arthur down. Um, but with all the pain, with all of the impact left over from it, it's actually the second worst beating that he remembers. And as he kind of drifts on memory, what comes back to him is like the smell of like the aftermath of a campfire and sweat and the smell of like dew on the grass back in Innismore. Um, and waking up very much a little concussed from the night before, um, to a woman sitting on a rock next to a lake. Um, and I'm going to show her on screen. Um, she's gorgeous and in a way that like Arthur has seen many, many beauties, but like hers is imperfect. She's red hair, she's freckled, but she's like the she, their beauty was always sort of like um the best explanation I have is like photoshopped perfection. Does that make sense? Every little wrinkle, every little
The point
um
of it being unnatural as opposed to real.
yeah, hers is very much she's beautiful, you know what I'm saying? But there are flaws in and amongst that beauty that are probably make her a little bit more attractive to Arthur. Does that make sense
Yeah.
with the time that he spent in the Unseelie and a reassurance that she is human. Um, and she intermixed with the memories of the fight that he got into, and the room full of Innish brawlers that he decided to like challenge um is a memory of the night he spent with that woman. And the it's up to Arthur, like I'll leave it up to you as like whether or not this was like the first woman that like Arthur betted or not.
It probably would have been.
But it's that like
This is,
far ago in his youth. Does that make
yeah,
sense? Like around that time.
it
So
likely would have been, yes. Is the
um
correct.
and there is a tradition in Innish fighting of that the winner buys the loser a drink and compliments them on the number of times that they got up from the fight. Does that make sense? Like more than anything, the number of times you picked yourself up off the ground is more important than how good you are. Even if you like didn't lay a punch on the person who you were fighting, if you picked yourself up off the ground 5 times, like that's worthy of respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, uh, and she kind of quirks a smile and she says, "True Inish says never know when to quit."
Oh, what would be the fun point of that? It's more fun to get up and keep fighting.
I wasn't talking about the fighting.
Well, there's never any more fun in that.
Um,
Getting up and going again.
she says, "Well, she says if you're feeling well enough to sit up, and you're feeling well enough to stare, could you help me find where you put my dress?"
Yeah, just give me a moment's time.
Um, and she kind of like um she kind of like pauses and she like looks up a tree, and she's like, "Bloody hell." Well, I'm not climbing that.
Do you see my trousers anywhere?
Um, she got there's like a guilty look that crosses her face. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, she got can goes to the tree, like breaks off a stick and sort of like reaches into the lake and fishes them out on the end of the stick. Says, "Well, I fancy something we could do while they dry."
We absolutely could, but if you want your dress, I'm yeah, no, I'm not arguing that. Let's go.
It'll keep, and just like adds new bruises to his hips as she pushes him down. Um, we're gonna
Long
kind of
story
like
short, kids, Arthur likes it rough.
we're gonna flash forward because like over weeks is how he gets to know uh Megan Guithan.
Oh, and also, a side note, I am perfectly fine. That crack was entirely real.
um
You could have fooled me, bro.
Megan was the
Not even
the
it doesn't even fit in the top five of the worst ones I've had.
Megan is the he's a bard traveling through Innismore when she crossed paths with Arthur. And like this isn't just like a nightly dalliance. Like it kicks off for like weeks. Does that make sense? They it's hard to say if one of them is following the other, you know what I'm saying, or um they're just kind of keep ending up in each other's orbit. Does that make sense? Like Arthur can't tell if it's the coin or if he just sort of, "Oh, this village that Megan mentioned she'd be at, I might stay here another night."
I think there's
Um,
definitely there would at least have to be a combination of that. Just
um, yeah, there's stuff, and she adamantly denies following him to any town and insists that he stops stalking her. Yeah, more
well,
than
I would if you were stopped being in the direction I was heading.
and more than once she finds like he finds himself like waking up to look at her, in her bardic attire. So a bard is like not just like I like sing and entertain. It is the first step of somebody training to be a druid. It is a period of gathering knowledge and insight, and she sort of um, she frequently like entertains him or leaves him thinking with some riddle. She teaches him like little omens and things to like see in the world. The one that she's particularly amused by is that, if you like cross paths with a redheaded woman, like good fortune will follow you the next day.
Oh, it certainly has.
She also teaches him that, like others that are like a little darker. Like if you see um, three ravens perched on a roof, that means a loved one will die within the year. Um, he also like, since this is like a flashback, it's kind of, like months later that he gets like some of her story out of her. She's a mix of Innish and uh, Highland marches and proper Kynric. She's one of the Simri. She speaks the language. She starts to teach to him, usually the naughty bits first. Like mid coitus, like whispering something that he has to like remember to ask her about later, but means nothing in the moment of the enthusiasm.
And
Um,
sometimes it just means harder, faster is what you need to learn.
uh, and but she also gets the story that like part of the reason she's traveling through Innismore is because she's in flight from one of the She. Um, the uh, and she is in flight from a famous one named the Red Cap. Red caps are not a class of creature of like the She. Does that make sense? There is a single She named Red Cap that is known for taking heads, is known for sort of like being the most malevolent little goblin in like Avalon's history. He's supposedly been killed many times, but keeps returning. Jack O'Bannon has had his own crossover with him, and is one of the few that's like humiliated him, but like made him like bound for revenge. And she is being stopped by the Red Cap all the way in Innismore, even though he's normally like a creature of the Highland Marches. Um, there are like adventures together. This is like a person that sort of she enjoyed the experience of like whatever fate threw at him. Does that make sense? And was kind of like at his side through things for like the better part of a year. Um, and uh, it's it's during the like as it gets close to the winter months that as coming back to one of the taverns that he's sharing with her, he sees um, the three ravens perched on the roof of the tavern. Um, and it's, like I don't know how much like Arthur kind of takes those omens seriously. He's certainly
He's
seen more than one of the so-called omens not come true. So
definitely hoping this is one of the latter.
um and uh, it's at that time that the coin kind of takes off and Arthur gets like mistaken for some like local murderer that's traveling through Innismore. There's like a whole case of like crossed identity, and in the midst of it, the Red Cap just keeps showing up, but never quite taking action. Does that make sense? It's like but she sees it and is shaken by it. She's fearless except this one time, right? It's like the one thing that really seems to like unnerve her. Um, and she she doesn't always like share her business with him, you know what I'm saying? But like there's a couple of people that she clearly goes out of her way to like meet during this period. Um, and it's late at night after like a very intense session that he knocks over like part of her bedroll, and um the bedroll falls open. He realizes that there's a short sword within it, made of cold iron and patterned with the patterns of the McEachran clan. If I explained to you what that is?
Not to the McCreekran clan. Please
So
tell me and enlighten everyone else if they haven't been, or
so
remind people if they haven't.
so the McEachran clan developed their land was filled with some really nasty sheep, right? And they developed a weapon to fight against them. They tested it and they killed a she with their blades. Like not just harmed it, not just caused it pain as all cold iron does, but ended it. Um, and the next morning, the she attacked their castle. And at sunrise, they were, a healthy, well-respected clan of the Highlands Marches. By sunset, they were gone completely. Their nobility, like everybody who had a claim to McEachern blood, wiped out, and the McEachern clan all but destroyed. Only a few members survived, and those who did, like, went completely into hiding. Nobody calls themselves the McEachern anymore. Does that make sense? But the
Yes.
patterns on the blade, um, they match like what he's heard of them. Does that make sense? And the mere possession of this blade is like grounds for death from a she.
Is that why he's hunting you?
She shakes her head. She says, um, no. She says, I took it up because he is.
Like there is cold running through Arthur's veins at this point.
Um,
He knows what this is. He knows what it's supposed to mean he should do. He
um,
also knows he can't possibly bring himself to do it.
she kicks the blanket like over the blade. She's like, you never saw it.
I'll do my best to remember that.
Um, and uh the the coin guides him to an ancient tower a few days later. The red cap kind of always like makes his place amongst those. Does that make sense? Like he always prefers old ruins, battlements, and um like the and I'm not assuming that he takes the dagger with him. Does that make sense? Like
He he is that is a thing he almost refuses to touch.
um the uh and he like forges his way into like maybe if I can humiliate the Red Cap, he'll leave. I know the story of how Mad Jack did it, that he hung him over the side of a cliff by his foot and demanded that he leave him alone, and Red Cap has never troubled him again. And like he knows all the stories, he's ready. And he goes into the battlement, like kind of throws himself into the fight with the cap, grabs it by the neck, and when he lifts it, the red cap like disappears into his hand and becomes a Spriggan. Spriggan are tiny little fairy troublemakers, like little wings, Tinkerbell style. Um, and they like to take the form of monstrous things and scare people as a prank. And it's like with sort of a cold realization that like the red cap has never been after her at all. Like the little Spriggan just kind of like laughs and it's like, for your bravery, I reward you. And there's like flowers and money, like rain is like petals out of the sky. And then you hear a scream back from the village.
Damn it.
Um,
And he's off. He's
he
left the coins and flowers and he's
like,
not.
but you've forgotten your reward.
You can mail it to me.
um, and like make your way back into the village, and that's where you see the village just gathered around the town center, where you see Megan is impaled in the middle of it. A, a spear that is like planted in the ground and inscribed with she symbols that runs like all the way to the point where like the spear is emerging from her mouth and the McEachern dagger is like buried in her heart.
Arthur is shocked. He doesn't know what to do. He knows he didn't say anything to anyone. But at the same time, fears that something he's done has caused this to be the case of what happened. And he he just kind of falls to his knees at the same time of just watching, unable to bear to look, but unable to look away.
And he hears Jack's voice in his ear. He says, I'll help you bury her.
Arthur nods and just stands up, takes her down, finds a nice little spot for her. Like a nice something that she would have said pertains to good omens.
Um, so her name, uh, Weathen, he came to find out that it was Cymric for Willowbark, which is, the one of the most common like healing herbs. It was part of her, she was like she took it as a name to hide her own name. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But she took it because like as a druid, it was more about what she was dedicating herself to. Does that make sense? Like there were only 7 druids in all of Avalon, and she wanted to be one of the next ones. Um,
Arthur
but
supported that as much as possible as well.
uh,
And with being who he was, he would have introduced her to maybe one or two of the right people.
yeah, she was like definitely on the route, but like um, he can he can find like a place like under a willow tree for her. Um, and Jack is gone like soon after, like not even sure if like Jack was ever even there, if Arthur just sort of like mentally needed him there to do what was needed. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Um, uh, and if it's okay, I'd like to have like just a little kind of artifact of like remembrance of like a friendship bracelet that's like made out of like threaded willow bark that's been cut into
Yeah.
strips that he still has.
Arthur also took the knife and the spear and put them someplace that
Okay.
he'd be able to kind of he'd be able he knows where they are. If he needs to grab them,
Yeah,
he knows where to go. But at the same time, those are cursed items to him.
that's fair. Um, so we kind of cut to the present. And the tent being thrown open. Um, the man that stands over you is Kelby Loring. There's a picture of him that is like up on the I'm just showing this again just for the visual since you weren't here last time. Um,
Yes.
he was like part of the triumvirate of bad guys like yesterday. Does that make sense? Like he and Rosencruz and Redmond were sort of, he's the head of the Wakund, who were the ones that were like putting all of the pressure on and like taking over the city. Um, and he has like a tray of food. Are you good? I couldn't hear you.
I should.
Okay.
This is going very badly for me at the moment.
That's all right. Okay. So um he says, my men said you bested 10 of them on the bridge.
All right.
Says got up 3 times and uh uh it took one of my best, he says, to take you down.
Your best hits like a bleeding boulder falling down a mountain made of stupid. I don't have very good analogy similes at the moment. Give me a few minutes and a whiskey.
Um, yeah,
A
he
lot of
he like
whiskey.
offers a beer. Um, he says you're free to go.
That sounds fantastic, but do whiskey mean the same thing to you and myself?
He kind of like he says, I afraid I don't have any at the moment. He says, I'd offer you a gentleman's breakfast, he says, but a beer will have to do.
Understood.
Do you need help back into town?
Did you guys do anything to my legs?
I wasn't there for all the details of the fight, he says, but I'd bring a horse for you if you asked for it.
Horses and I have a tenuous relationship at best. I'll just. Besides, short walk or a long walk will be good for me.
Um, he uh, and we're gonna close it out there, and it's actually going to be those who are arriving at the camp to kind of like meet with Kelby. They'll Arthur will see them coming towards them, but that's going to be where our cold open closes, and we introduce everybody here today. So, um, thank you, everyone, and welcome to the Shadow of the Wachtturm, 7th First Edition Let's Play set in the great lawless city of Freeburg. Our art is courtesy of Hero Forge, First Edition, 7th Unsplash, and Beefunky. Our producer is one of the moderators of Dirty 20 Gaming, the delightful, compassionate Gloriosa, and our lore master for the series is the beautiful and benevolent Sindra. Before we get started, I wanted to give a content warning. While the spirit of 7th is swashbuckling adventure and shattering intrigue, the story will deal with mature themes, including death, loss, suicide, and grief. Eisen, our setting, is recovering from a 30-year civil war over religious differences. It may get dark sometimes, and there's no shame in bowing out. It's not a place your head can go at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to have our savvy swashbucklers introduce themselves, starting with Arthur.
Hello, I am the Scarred Adventurer, otherwise known as Arthur on Sundays. On Tuesdays, you will find me as Red Death, and on Thursdays, you will find me as Warren Lang. Sort of all crazy characters. None of them seem to have a semblance of sanity or really a good, solid brain cell between the lot of them. Like, I mean, who needs intelligence when you can just punch things until they stop or drive them insane? So much fun to drive them insane. And someone already put up the links, so I'm not going to put the links up any. But yeah, otherwise, when I'm not working here and doing stuff with the wonderful Dirty 20 Gaming and the wonderful people who make up our community, you will find me working with the wonderful Sands over at Tangor Productions to eventually bring stuff and things to you, which is just a long, complicated process of making things that takes so long. And oh my god, to write like 5 seasons of something, it's too much. It's too much. But no, I'm kidding, and not kidding. I'm kidding about it being too much. I'm not kidding about having to write that much stuff. Anyways, I'm going to toss it over to the person whose camera just went in and out. So yes,
I am so sorry. The wrong button. I was trying to mute. Um, so hey y'all. My name is Sarah. I'm taking your bit, Ruth. You found me. Yeah, you can find me here 3 times a week. Tuesday in the
technically Kyle's bit.
Okay.
It happened to me and he's been using it.
Okay. On Tuesday at the Cyberpunk Red, Carnage Heights, Magic, Broken Heart of the Team Silverlock. Thursday, the City of Mist campaign, Deviant Paradox. I am the DM. And here Sunday, I am the 7th Shadow of the Wachtturm, Rosenix. I am also in another game that is not on this channel, and it is not streamed, but you can go back and watch the episodes here called Forceblade Punks. It's a lot of fun. I play a character called Ghostblade. Other than that, I'm working with the Scarred Adventurer on stuff and things that'll come out in the future. Hopping over, I said her name, so Ruth.
Hi, I'm Ruth. Should I say it too? You found me. I am on this channel 3 times a week. Today as Runa. Through Tuesdays as Exit. And Thursdays as Nora Avalon. Otherwise, sometimes I'm in the group chat. Other times I'm dead to the world. So that's about all from me. I'm gonna toss it over to Gav.
That's me. Hi, I am Bison. I'm here a lot, so it's pretty easy to find me. I'm here 4 times a week currently. On Tuesdays, I run, and I use that term loosely, our Cyberpunk Red campaign, Carnage Heights. Currently, we are people are on drugs. People are trying to recover from drugs, and it's going. On Thursday, I play everybody's traumatized little emo, um, Gav Sakes, or not Gav, Garrett Sakes. I knew I was going to do it eventually. I knew I was going to do it eventually. It just happens to be 2 years in. Um, and that is on Deviant Paradox. On Saturday, I play Calvin Scooter Hobbs, the I can't believe I survived this con man slash pilot in our Starforged game Starswarm. Other than that, I am all over the Discord. I am there all the time because I have no life. And I post memes. And if you want to get me going for like 45 minutes, ask me a question about Warhammer. If I don't know it, I'll find out. Let's go to Backup.
Hi, folks. It's Matt Kyle, and I'm not going to dignify the stealing of my bit with doing it 3 times. Just stay in your lanes. On Sunday, you can find me
If it weren't
here.
for me, you wouldn't have that bit.
Yeah, but I feel I'm the one who really made it famous. So, credit where credit's due to me. Anyway, on Sundays, you can find me as Len. Oh God, my ex is a queen and she's headed straight for town. Well, pseudo ex is a queen and headed straight for town with an army, Costin. On every other day, you can't find me here because I don't currently have any Dirty 20 games, although I am running one every other Saturday for a streamer friend and some fellow mods, and starting a Tuesday one with some other streamer friends. Neither of those are going to be on camera or anything, so good time. That is Asura's ass you see on the screen right there. Len is also unofficially the ass of Asura. I made sure to move that slider all the way over, baby.
That's because you are an ass. You're the embodiment of an ass.
Yep. I'd like to point out that Gloriosa and I are married, so
She has the legal right to say it.
she has the legal right to say it, but she also knew who she was marrying. That aside, you can find me in the Discord being an absolute menace. In fact, I tag myself as such as a warning to new members. And besides that, you're not going to find me anywhere else because I don't like social media. Let's go over to Rory.
Hello, I'm Rory. You can find me here tonight only on this wonderful Sunday evening, playing this wonderful game with these wonderful people, playing our hopefully everyone's favorite slightly demonically engaged soldier boy, Hans Ulrich. Aside from being here playing this awesome game, you can eventually find me on Twitch streaming a project currently currently named The Basement, sort of a parody on a lot of radio talk shows with some DJ sets in there. Oh. And you can also find some of the music I've made in the past on SoundCloud currently. New music coming soonish, hopefully. But I believe that's everything for me. So I think that just leaves Honorine.
Hi, everybody. I am Gloriosa, also known as I'm Blaze of Gloriosa, also known as Gloriosa. Today I am here playing our resident noblewoman, Honorine, who's excited to help Rosa get ready for her date. I'm so excited for that. It's gonna be the best. I'm on Discord. I'm here. And otherwise I'm either behind the camera or not here because work has eaten my entire life. And my brain. Work has eaten my brain. I don't need it for this game though, so that's fine. Siosa, what do you get up to?
So I am the GM of the game that you are here at, Shadow of the Wachtturm. I also play Anchors Away on Up the Creek on Friday nights. Y'all gave me just the perfect amount of time to like have a cough drop, so thank you very much. So, I'm also like in week 4 recovery from some stupid coughing thing that I cannot get rid of. Um, so without any further ado, I'm going to move us into stuff. Um, In the ancient days of Numa, the great storyteller and philosopher Ceres the Wiser once noted that adventure can only begin in one of 3 ways: by death, by slur, or by letter. Begin without one of these incitements is folly, tobacco best described as an indiscretion, a dalliance, an escapade. But fear not, we begin tonight properly girded with the letter, the most seductive of the 3, and thus the most powerful. This particular letter that we're going to begin with was penned by one Honorine to her Aunt Jemay. And I'm going to have her read it to everybody. This is just gonna a little like off-camera thing. And it should be in player handouts, a letter to Jemay. And then I'm going to read her reply, which Honorine will have gotten, and then we're going to pick up back at like the where the Wakund have set up.
We're not going to pick up predate. We can do.
We're not picking up predate. We're
we
picking
can-
up at the Wakund.
I mean, we can go do the pet the dogs before we do the letter if you want.
We will do the pet the dogs here in a minute.
Fuck. Okay. Okay. To the most genteel and benevolent Duchess Jamay, deliberative and temperate shepherd of cease to cease, from her respectful and loving niece. I received your recent note with joyous ambivalence. While my homesickness has eased somewhat, hearing from my kin never fails to delight my day. The attachment, on the other hand, was likely meant for one of my precocious cousins or a close family friend, as I was only passingly acquainted with the subject matter. Of course, I had viewed the performance, as practically the entirety of Freiburg had. There was some disagreement in the city as to whether the spectacle in question should continue after the fortnight it had already accomplished, and from what I understand, there was quite the parade by a Master Kelby Loring outside of the playhouse. I shall keep you apprised of anything I hear in addition to what makes its way into the Freiburg Gazette, although I dare say you likely have better sources than I on the matter. The longer I reside... I'm sorry, Bison is breaking me. I love it. Okay, I have to look this way. The longer I reside in this most unique of cities, the more fascinated I find myself by the culture. While I initially wondered, despite your assurances to the contrary, if I had done something to cause your exquisite self-displeasure, when first dispatched to Eisen, I have been charmed by the mingling of all manner of travelers. Unlike in Cheruz, the districts are not so firmly cleft by the foreordinance of birth in Freiburg. There has been some unrest of late, but as I remain friendly with the local guard, there is little for me to be concerned about with regard to any of their flames or cries. Aside from the occasional midnight arousal due to, this is in parentheses, aside from the occasional midnight arousal due to distant shouting or singing, which may or may not have anything to do at all with the aforesaid unrest. No bother, as I simply take the moment to stoke the brazier a bit and then fall peacefully back to slumber. I shall be quite delighted to keep you abreast of any notable progress here. I have made the acquaintance of the local intermediator of courtship, a lovely woman with the same capacity for fanciful imaginings as my beloved cousin Jean Claudette. It is my fervent hope that you look forward to my coming accounts of hopeful admirers with joy and anticipation. Until then, I remain your most quotidian and reverent niece, Honorine, Rosemary, Tiffan, Cease du Cease.
So the letter, the counter letter has arrived,
Oh no.
like while you were on horseback heading out to the Wachtturm's tents with everybody else.
I'm sorry.
My dearest niece, nothing puts my mind at ease quite so much as when my beloved niece is at her most ingratiating. Indeed, should I read another letter which opens in so openly adoring prose, I may require a second or third bottle of wine before I am properly fortified to produce an appropriate response. While I delight in your patronage of the arts while in Freiburg, there was considerable interest in the newest opera debuting in Freiburg. I have heard tell that the performers are women, sometimes publicly immodest women, and yet neither of these scandals looms quite so large as the whispered association of a size to size with such a politically charged performance. Indeed, word of so provocative a performance has allowed Porte's masters to make quite an entrepreneurial occasion of visiting Freiburg, although I dare say the reasons for having a blooded object in the city will be considered quite circumspect by the more priggish members of our court. On that matter, I must admit that there was something of an altercation in the last court. Jean-Marie Rosette-Reims du Rhône asked me to dance, unusual in and of itself, considering his reputation and his happy marriage, but the occasion was one for private condolence. He had heard of the passing of my fair niece, and at my surprise feared that he was breaking the news to me. I should note that I might have sharpened my tongue upon him, but I felt his condolences genuine and his intent well-meaning. But as we danced, I spotted his aunt spying upon our dance with an expression I could only presume was glee. Therefore, there, before l'Emperor and l'Empress, before Theus and the entire court of shrews, I marched to Therese and spoke unkindly as to her character. Disastrously, l'Emperor laughed at my declaring her the Voiture of Boucher, and the nickname has circulated about the old iron bird in the days since. Voiture means vulture. I may have also suggested that the reason Jean-Marie and his brother Gerard are such dedicated military men was that death was preferable to spending time in her company. Apparently, the captain of the musketeers' face has lent some possibility my sharp tongue struck an honest nerve. I do hope things are going well in Freiburg, and your family will be able to come and visit you soon. Your most intemperate and short-sighted aunt, Duchess Jamais Genevieve Margot Sice du Sice.
Amazing. Okay, so this arrives in like the bag via Porte while they're riding. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Describe her reaction in general to everybody that's riding with her, and let me know who is going out to visit the puppies and Kelby Glory.
Am I allowed?
No.
You
No,
might be in a cart. If you really want to come, you were part of the fighting.
You get the wagon.
But you're not riding.
I think
Yeah.
that,
drive the cart.
I think that we might have told Runa, like, we'll bring you another time, like maybe you and Brandy and people, like,
And she would have told you not to talk to her like she's a kid.
We'll assume that the matter was settled when Brandy heard rumor that there were going to be puppies at the camp, and now Brandy is in the cart with Runa.
I guess that settles that.
Gav is spending the morning at the Explorer Society.
Okay.
You're not coming to see the puppies?
Would Gav
Homeboy
pass up
raises
puppies?
rats.
Okay, fine.
Puppies.
Oh boy.
He's got squeakies.
So Hans is there, Runa's there, Honorine's there, Arthur is there by incident.
But not on the horses and stuff, though, right? Yeah.
No, he's coming the other direction.
Yeah.
Len and Rosa, are you guys going, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Len's driving the cart.
Okay.
Oh, Scarred, because you weren't here, Runa looks like shit. She took many an injury from people. I have 5 dramatic wounds.
Yep.
Do with that what you will.
Matching
I
stab
gathered that
wounds.
much.
Yep.
Her and Honorine have matching stab wounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just sucking down friggin' dramatic wounds like Pac-Man.
Okay, so Honorine, what is her reaction upon reading the letter?
She's going to be like, oh, there's a response already, and like kind of pull it out. And at the first paragraph, she sort of starts to giggle. Like at the first part, like, okay, several bottles of wine, like, ha ha ha. And then as she gets to the part about the dance with what's his face and like the court and all that stuff, like she's like, oh no, oh no, like she has the face that we were all making. That's like, that's like, this is delightfully bad, but also like this is probably really bad, but this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like she is positively delighted. She's like, oh my gosh, oh, uh, so there's been a bit of a stir in the court in Charus.
Does your aunt need a place to stay?
I mean,
Is
she'd probably stay with you anyway, even if she didn't need one.
She did see the sculptures.
No,
And the sketches.
she's pretty wily, but I guess she made fun of is a good enough word. She made fun of the person who tried to kill me in such a way that the emperor laughed at her, which is you're not really supposed to do that. She's I want to be her someday.
You're on your way there, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
see, I agree.
Thanks.
That's a compliment.
See,
So it's at this point we'll have Arthur kind of like approaching from the other direction, clearly beat up.
She stuffs the letter away and she's like, "Oh my gosh." Honorine is also
Rose
beat
is
up,
just looking.
but
oh, go
like
ahead.
also no, I was just gonna say Honorine is also a little beat up, but not as bad as Runa, and she's just like, "Oh my god, what happened to you?" Jeez.
I'm thinking about how you got stabbed in the same place twice.
Oh,
And walloped.
Matching stab wounds.
Twinsies.
Well,
Super cute.
we're heading to see the dogs and such, but if you would like ride, friend Arthur, you can hop in cart and we can take you back when we leave.
Sure. That sounds about the best sort of course of action that one could take.
Brandy's little eyes just widened at the sheer number of bruises. You know what I'm saying? And she kind of like, you can sit here. And she like hops off of the cart and,
Oh, little one. You should say the other fellas.
She's like, did you get trampled?
Well, I guess that's one way you could put fighting off 20 people. But,
Um,
we got at least half of them. I don't really remember the
Jeez.
details super well. I mean, too many blows to the head and the bottle of whiskey I found in my coat as soon as I got out, make one
You are
little
talking to a child, you know.
Yeah.
misremembering
She's
things.
3 years old.
Arthur's talking
This
to her
is
like she's just
Runa's
another
cousin's
adult.
daughter. So
Arthur
her
doesn't
niece.
care.
yeah, her eyes are a little wide, but she's still a little bit more preoccupied with like all the bruises. And then she's thinking like she can walk and keep pace with the horses, which lasts for like 5 steps. So whoever is going to scoop Brandy up to like ride on the front of their horse.
Dibs. Dibs.
Uh,
Come here, you
My thought
precious
is-
thing.
Rose is riding with Len, and since
Oh,
he's
okay.
driving, she would just like bring her up with them,
Okay.
Good idea.
even though
Uh,
her hands look
But Honorine
terrifying.
called dibs.
We'll be sure to
You
give
can't
Honorine
disrespect the dibs, man.
some brandy time. She's a restless little squirrely thing, and it's not like we have tablets for kids right now.
Pass the brandy.
So it's just gonna be like, okay, here, ride with Auntie Honorine for a while.
Like passing the
so the-
brandy.
The walk-in camp is like dozens and dozens of tents, and they're not like the rest of the tents of like the despair. Like these are campaign tents. These are designed so a military unit can go on march and do so in relative comfort. You know what I'm saying? So like some of them like are fully capable of housing like 30 or 40 people. There are separate tents that are set up for like a galley and all sorts of like benefits that are like this is relatively comfortable living even by like noble standards, but on the road. Does that make sense? This is how a noble entourage would travel, although a little bit more militant in its overall makeup than comfort oriented. And you're well away from it when you hear like the sound of like the dog starting to bark and whatnot. They will release them without any like reservation because they're not trained attack dogs. They're watchdogs. They're just people. And like they're like hopping up and like sniffing at boots. The horses get a little bit nervous. as some of
Those
like
are
the
80
kennel
pound
masters.
dogs.
Yeah, they're like the horses, like these are dogs that could be used to herd horses. Does that make sense? And have been used to herd horses. So the dogs, so they're nervous, but like for the most part, they're just excited. Does that make sense? Like it's sort of in the face of like how the Wakund have been throughout Freiburg for the last while because they haven't been using these dogs. They've been keeping them kenneled. Because they're like excited to be outside, excited to be, like seeing new people and stuff like that. And they're not trained to be aggressive. Um, Sometimes some of them are still like, hopping up and wanting to sniff and like lick people and stuff like that. One of the larger ones tries to get in the cart with Runa and Arthur.
Here you go, buddy. Say hi.
It is absolutely like licking all over Runa.
Ow.
But
But she's petting the dog anyway. She's just like, yeah.
Arthur is giving some nice
I didn't need those ribs.
big dog scritches.
Yeah. And
This is the medicine Runa needed. She's healing as we speak.
Yeah, and Kelby Loring emerges. You see Big Al and his the second that was there at the meeting. Big Al is the one who like went through a wall to take Arthur down. He's like a Gav-sized with Panzer hands.
You and I are having a rematch some other time. Just I'm not as tired as now.
He's like fresh start, fine with that. And Len can pick up a Lucerne accent from him.
Ooh.
That definitely tracks. We build them big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelby kind of like down, It's like some of the worst offenders. And
This one is named Seamus, and he's lovely.
And to the one that's like in the cart, he
Arthur
like,
and
cocks
Runa
his head
just
at it,
hugging the dog.
and he's just like, he can stay. He's like,
Runa and Arthur just yay.
he invites everybody inside of his own tent. There's almost like there are the creature comforts that are like the necessary creature comforts of comfort, but not a lot in the way of like fine foods or anything like that. He's clearly eating the same mess like that his men are eating. There's chairs, there's a table, and there's also like a letter that is on the table. The like fully like half the dogs try to swarm into the tent. He kicks about 3/4 of them back out. The rest of them just kind of take places around the edge and like they flap out over feet. The like a corner of this room has like puppies that are maybe days old in it. Like their
Yay.
eyes are open and they're trying to get over the edge of the fence, but like most of them don't have the coordination to be on 2 feet for more than a couple seconds, and so they just like flop right back over.
Potatoes.
Do you need any hand with those ones? I'm just, old. I've worked with dogs before.
He says we will give away to anybody who can promise to feed him.
Yep, okay. This one is named Seamus. He's my best friend, and I will die for him. He just walks out of the tent. We're starting to walk out of the tent.
Yeah, he's like, there's a meal for all who'd go to. Says the least I can do is way of apology, but I have a few more apologies to make as well.
We will sit down. I've not eaten in. Arthur stops to think for a moment. A while. It's been at least a few days.
So who's taking puppy? Just
How many is Brandy taking?
Brandy can only carry 2, but she's trying to take 2.
Oh.
Brandy, we can bring one home.
But I love them.
But I've got 2 hands.
I'll take such good care of them.
Brandy, we can take one home.
You're both licking
Your
your
mother
face.
would kill me.
So
I already have a mess of cats. I can't add a dog to this mess.
all right.
Arthur's definitely taking
oh.
home Seamus.
Rose is
His
the one
name.
who's getting the dog.
Yeah, Rosa gets the dog.
All right. So the Kelby offers a letter to Hans. He says, I owe the people of Freiburg as much apology as I owe to you individually. I understand that there are concerns with the guards He says, I offered a contract to Wilma before to provide to the defense of the city. Um, I have I have heard from my second the decisions that I've made while I was under the influence of that artifact. Um, and I have a great deal of work to do to rebuild my reputation and to make proper amends.
Oh, there was an artifact. That makes so much more sense now.
He says,
And while we're all sitting and being nice to one another.
He says, there is a new contract offer on the table. He says, which is a year's worth of work for the entire Wakund. Um, he says, with no greater costs incurred than our meals. He says, if that is supplementing the guard, he says, if that is running down Redmond and the enemies of the city.
How will you pay your men?
I don't know what to say to that.
He says, I have coin.
I mean, we could always use more men in the Vinerhood.
And honoring
certainly-
is. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
We could certainly use some. It has to be some kind of retaliation to Redmond for all of this at some point. That is discussion for later time, to be honest.
think the biggest thing would be Frenton's being able to get some sleep for a while.
And if any of, but I do agree with the fact that we might be very happy to have people, especially if any of them hit like this surly bastard over here, eh? Arthur is smiling, but anyone who's paying any attention to Arthur can see some deep hurt behind his eyes. Not the I'm in pain hurt, the
Something's troubling him hurt.
Honoring is like, as long as the men are getting, pay, that's because unpaid men are not reliable men.
He says the men that were most driven by pay, he says, are still in service to Redmond Earhart. He says, but they are a small fraction of my men. He says some left the Wakund under protest of the orders that I was giving. It's my intention to rehire them if they will allow it. If not, I would offer their names as honorable men to anybody looking to hire permanent guardsmen.
Of course, if any choose to not rejoin your troop, I would gladly offer them employment. But this is this is rather unexpected, Kelby. I appreciate the gesture.
He nods like seriously. He says, as to personally, the key that I gave you is to our former headquarters. We earned that place in Freiburg once, he says, but we no longer have right to it. You are welcome to use it for whatever purpose you find suitable.
I will ensure it gets put to good use. This is I'm truly grateful for this. It is instills confidence as to I suppose as to who you really are. Now that we get to see a bit more of the true loring of legend.
He smiles at that and he says, I appreciate your respect. He says, I don't know exactly what power that artifact had over me, but it was certainly concerning. I have my own quarrel with Redmond Earhart now. He says, and whatever I am tasked to be responsible for, I can assure you I will take that responsibility seriously.
Where's the artifact now?
I believe its removal destroyed it.
Yeah, like disappeared into dust.
Does anyone have a good picture of what it looked like? Just out of curiosity for some people who,
I don't
were
have
unconscious at the time.
that artifact.
No,
I-
we were. Good.
I do have, and she pulls out the 5 that she has.
None of them look quite like the one that was around his arm. Like there's no kind of like insectoid anything to them. In fact, of Sin-Earth artifacts, they look the most non-Cernathy that you've ever seen. Does that make sense? Because like they're designed to blend in, except for like the lens, the things I call the lens knives. Um, so uh, he says though, and he kind of like he leans back, like you don't think he had an aversion to Cernith artifacts, but you think he might be developing one now.
Rosa, where did you
Hey.
get those?
When I fought the Cernith, when it disappeared, this is what was left.
You fought one?
See,
This is the one you said was on tower opening portal.
see, yes.
I do not remember. Still,
Whatever.
Is-
And because Arthur wasn't here when it happened, Rosa's hands are partially black now, with like a web like design up her arms.
Sick as fuck. I didn't know we were unmuted.
Okay. Hey, unvarnished opinions are okay too.
When I got these, I also got these. I was using mi madre grandmother's book to help me.
well, that could explain why nobody else remembers. If somebody could erase someone from existence and not be one of the gods, would be, great granny.
I just realized you said that in front of Loring.
Sorry, say again what you said. I was looking something up.
No, you heard nothing. Don't worry about it.
You heard that?
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like we've had
If
this
she also didn't hear it, Kelby didn't hear it.
we've had this conversation before among our group, right?
But Arthur wasn't there for it, so.
But
Right.
Arthur was not there.
So I think probably one of them, like as she started to talk about, would be like, Rosa, you don't have to talk about it right now. Like if it was Honorine, she would have been like, Rosa, you don't have to talk about it right now. We'll talk about it later. And like, if she insists on talking about it, squeeze her hand a little harder.
No. It would be the minute you start, and she's like, "Si, grazie," and she puts it away. But she's not exactly like okay, because she's still shaking, because freaking out.
All right.
And Honorine will continue to hold her hand, just not squeezing.
If contract is accepted, would suggest or request that a significant presence is maintained around the Wachtturm itself. That seems to be the main focus of what happened, for good or ill.
Just been the
That
main
contract
focus
only
of-
requires Wilma Prop's signature, and I will enforce it however she requests. I am placing my men at Vasya and her's disposal.
It would be good to have law and order again.
some
Such as there are
sentences.
laws, yes.
Such as there are laws, yes.
Indeed.
He says, I have men on standby ready to move on Redmond's estate right now.
This is good because Iron Prince is still missing. Or did we find, was he found
No,
and
this
liberated?
is before that. Like
Okay.
the estate has not been liberated yet. Loring's men are the ones that are going to do it. And he says that from what I understand, the place is protected only by those who broke faith with me, for coin.
I never really trust a man who only works for coin. Just a little partial habit. It's just
Given everything I did while under the influence of that artifact, I can understand why they might have taken the contract.
Yes. I would offer to scout ahead for you, but I have a far more important thing tonight.
A date?
Says he
there's a
says
date going on.
if
That
Wilma
sounds interesting.
accepts the contract, tell her to and he fishes into a bag and he pulls out like it's a small alchemical like vial. Says burn this atop the Wachtturm and the smoke will be red. I'll know it as a signal, and my men will move on at Erhardt's estate.
Wunderbar.
Grazie.
We'll ensure a swift delivery of this contract. Sooner we can begin to set things right, the better.
All right. So I'm gonna move because we have a lot of scenes to do. I'm gonna move forward if there's nothing else that anybody needs to bring up at this particular juncture.
My Rottweiler's name is Red.
What's that?
My Rottweiler's name is Red.
Your Rottweiler is red? Okay.
Len would just want to know if Wilma directs it, Herr Prost directs it, will you move against the Inquisition in the city?
I understand that Redmond and the Inquisitor himself have left the city. Whatever remnants of the Inquisition, we won't move on them without the Cardinal's blessing to do so.
Good. Just making sure.
So we will move on from there. Hans, the key that you have is to a building called the Draken's Tooth, and the key itself has what looks like a very big tooth on the end of it.
Damn.
Like you're like, might be a Draken's Tooth, might be something else. I'm not really sure.
Interesting key.
I'm not going to go through. So this is the Draken's Tooth was the private drinking hall of the Wachtturm. It was invitation only. There's an entire basement filled with casks of beer, whiskey, vodka, rum, ale. Like the place is stocked and loaded. It's got like a map room. It's got like training areas. It's got huge kennels for like, the dogs were kept there and stuff like that. It's more than enough space to like completely move the guardhouse to, and like the guardhouse would now have a bar in it.
Damn.
For some reason, you see Arthur there a lot more.
It was one of the nicest buildings in Feinharth, and it was like a private club. Does that make sense? Like only the Wakund were allowed there. And he remodeled it that way because when they were drinking in public, they got in fights that they won, and it was causing a lot of problems. So it was cheaper to literally like give them a place to drink for free than continually bail them out from the jail.
Yeah. Awesome.
And like up to 100 or 200 guardsmen could stay there like for weeks at a time in comfortable barracks. There's a very large potential bedroom for Hans himself. So
the real bed in it, Hans. You should,
I have to sleep in my office chair now. God, when's the last time I went back to my house?
Okay, so we have a lot of stuff that we are going to be going over. I'm going to save the feast with Louis Claude for later. You guys have spoken to Lauren. You've gotten the Wakun key. So let's transition over to Gavin. Is it okay if I have like Rosa joining you with the artifacts?
Yep.
Okay. So Rosa will come in a little bit later. And Gav is, like back to Madeline Dubisset, who's like the Montaigne version of Wilma Probst, you're convinced, although in charge of the Explorer Society as opposed to
they
the
almost
city.
look exactly the same. It's uncanny.
They're like lovely in very different ways. And she has like half rimmed glasses that she's kind of perpetually like looking over the top of that she only needs for reading, but she wears constantly because she reads so much.
That's her.
The Explorer Society building is just filled with strange objects. Rosa's never been here, but it's like a place of like what's strange is there's not many things that have sort of like an insectoid feel like the thing that she saw before. Does that make sense? But Madeline de Bissette comes out. Gav has an appointment. She bows her head to the both of you. Um, she says, "I understand that you have uh, requested an appointment."
It for two reasons, ma'am, Fraulein. Firstly, it has been some time since my expedition into the sewers, and without, with great assistance from my comrades, I have found we discovered and defeated the Verschlingen.
She says, "Do you have an account of it? The battle?"
I have sort of chuckles like, "Oh, I was there, so I mean, I can
So you could give an
definitely
account of it, a first-hand account.
da."
She's,
Also, he's
come
got
into my office.
several
Come
like
into my office. And she
he,
like
he has several like sheafs of paper that he's drawn sketches on. It's like what the Verschlingen looked like when it was about to strike, where it came at, just things he noticed, and the way it attacked when it jumped out of the water, just literally everything he could remember.
Oh, the anatomical details on this are marvelous.
Herr Forscher taught me. He was obviously very good.
Oh, you also have an excellent eye for art and detail. If you ever need some extra coin, we have a few, I would say, books that could use some new illumination.
He sort of laughs like, if I ever find the time, da.
Um, she says, "You would be compensated for your efforts, I assure you." "I'm so sorry. I am Madeline Dubisset, the head of the Explorers Society." She introduces herself to Rosa.
This is friend Rosa. She is in possession of some very strange objects.
Cernith objects.
See. And she'll just pull them out.
Oh, you're touching them directly. Oh, okay. He just she like gets some tongs and kind of takes them from you one by one and like sets them on a little like she says, "Does not cause death by toxic poisoning." She says, "If you feel under the weather in the next few weeks, please notify me immediately."
See. All right.
um she kind of like she's scribbling this whole time. You she kind of like, "Would you mind drawing these, Mr. the Grin?"
And immediately he pulls out his charcoal, sets the paper down. He holds it's
She has
this is
like
the first.
book stock ready like paper that she sets down in sheets for
Okay.
you, along with like a range of like colored inks, pencils, charcoals.
Yeah. So this would be the first time Rose has seen Gav draw. He does his own inking. He sketches it with his Cernith hand,
Mhm.
using it like a pen, and then he goes in and colors it with his meat hand, using the inks and the dyes and the pigments, and his paintbrush, he's literally holding it like a pen because his hands
Okay.
are that big.
Um, so to provide a little bit more description of like each of the artifacts. So like the necklace and the ring both look kind of like contemporary jewelry. Does that make sense? Um, the necklace is designed to like hang low enough that it could be hidden under like cloth. Does that make sense? And the ring is just a normal jeweled ring that the only thing unusual about it is the particular stone that's on it. Um, After some testing, and so when she like this takes most of the day because there's a whole protocol that they go through of like touching things carefully, you know what I'm saying, recording any reactions, kind of like bringing like flame against them, as well as like exposing them to some like different elements and seeing if there's a reaction before they actually like put them on. And when Madeline Bissett puts the ring on, she immediately changes into Wilma Probst. And she's like, "Well, this is unusual." But she still sounds like Madeline de Bissett. She says, "I expected something to happen."
Do you not see it?
She says, "What?"
Frau
do
Probst.
should could I have like a pocket mirror on me?
She's got a mirror in her office.
Okay, yeah. Then Rosa just kind of like excuse, and she moves her over in front of the mirror.
She's like, yeah, I don't, has there been a change in pigmentation?
Do you look like Senora Prost?
I look like, I, I mean, I've told I have a resemblance.
No,
Rosa's just like, I don't know what to
Fraulein.
do here.
She says, you
Fraulein,
mean it
it
has
is
changed my
little.
appearance to your view?
See,
You look like Frau Probst,
Um,
right down to the little loops in her dress.
yeah, and Rosa, from what you saw before in the tower, what you do see is that her shadow is reflective of Madeline de Busset. Does that make sense? But she
interesting.
herself looks exactly like Wilma Prost to you. And she kind of like pulls it back off, and then she says, this ring seems to the gem on it, it seems to be loose or perhaps an aesthetic of some kind. She says, so I am going to attempt to turn it. And she kind of tries to turn it and like nothing happens. And then out of curiosity, you see she like puts the ring back on. She turns it again, and suddenly the image clicks over to like Madeline de Bassett. Like it, and she's like, did that do something?
You
Well, yourself.
see.
She kind of pulls the ring off. She's like, Mr. the Grin, if you would indulge me, would you try that on? Is he putting on his meat hand or his Cernith hand?
Um, I think he would go with the meat hand first.
Okay.
Just because, that's, but actually no, that's the finger. This is the
So he,
meat. This is the Cernith hand.
so
So I'm gonna go with my pantomime.
okay.
He put it on
Gav
his Cernith
now
hand.
looks exactly like Madeline de Bassett.
There's a moment for confusion from Rosa of like,
And Madeline de Bassett's eyes kind of like go big, and like she kind of like circles around Gav.
I changed, da.
She's like, "Oh, how embarrassing! I see. I appear to have mislaced my corset."
I don't feel anything.
You feel yourself, yes?
Da.
Um, so some experimentation later, the necklace does the same thing for voices. It seems to copy a voice. It seems to be set with Wilma Probst, but and there is no like saved settings. It is whenever it is clicked and turned, that person is locked into its memory. Does that make sense? So you have to put the necklace on them, put the ring on them, and then have turned it. How they managed to do that to Wilma is a question, but they clearly have seemed to have managed it. Does that make sense? But you also understand that she takes court regularly. Sometimes people give her gifts. Um, so that's two of the artifacts. That's the disguise ring and the voice necklace. The other things are so the lens or the light batteries, she's not clear what they do. Does that make sense? But she is clear that she can see light traveling through them extremely slowly. But the batteries themselves are actually located inside of the knife objects that the creature was carrying. The objects are relatively easy to activate. They have a trigger like a gun does, and then there's like a knife length like blade of light that comes out of them, which a quick experiment through like a couple of different metals continually seems to have no trouble cutting through almost everything it's put to. The lens knives can cut through anything that has a melting point below 1600 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's a lot.
Yes.
okay.
It also doesn't radiate heat beyond the knife itself. Does that make sense? So it's not like cooking out the room the moment the trigger is pulled. And the knives don't operate while the battery is out of them, but they do operate when it's inside of them. It seems to be light powered or something similar. There's nothing you're able to figure out that like the lenses do. There doesn't seem to be any way that you can figure out how to like turn them on, turn them off, make them do anything. So they're still a mystery for now.
Yeah.
Um, for reference, the if you use one of the lens knives, one of the disadvantage of it is you cannot apply your strength to it, but it does a base damage of 3k3. The only way to raise that is with raises. So for a weak character, it's a fairly good weapon. For a really strong character, it's a kind of a trade-off.
To put that into perspective, a flamberge is 4k2.
They hit real hard. Flesh melts a lot faster than 1600 degrees.
It'll heat up iron, but it won't melt it.
Yeah. Well, I assume
So-
applied long enough, it will. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
Iron's melting point is like 1600
2800.
Celsius, not Fahrenheit. But yeah, brass and bronze, it'll melt
The
it to close
1600
to-
is instantly, though. Anything
Yeah.
below 1600 is just
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So it's
Are
bad.
they giving this stuff back to Rosa?
Yes. They offer to buy all of them. Their starting points for all of them are 5,000 gilder.
She's gonna take them back for the group and make the decision with them.
She says, if I might make a suggestion, these lenses, since their purpose is unknown and could be potentially dangerous, we have a safe storage area if you'd like to keep them here. They will remain yours.
Grazie, please.
So, okay. So, and you can store anything there that you want. Like,
Yeah, she's gonna store technically all of them, and then have the conversation with the group. And if she decides to sell them, she'll just be like, "It's yours."
on a sober moment before she leaves, she says, the book about the Verschlingen, Mr. the Grin, I intend to dedicate to those who lost their lives in fighting it.
It would be appreciated.
She says, I am also going to give you a co-authorship credit upon it.
I am still learning to read, but I thank you for that.
She says, the field work must be respected.
Herr Forscher and many others gave their life so that I could do this. So, da.
I hope in time you might consider further occupation with us.
He kind of sounds like, I am very busy right now, but one day, maybe, one day.
She says, within the Explorer Society, one of the hardest positions for us to fill is that of a shield man. Those who are willing to put their lives and their well-being on the line to protect the less apt scholars who are frequently in the field in very dangerous circumstances. She says, I think you would make a brilliant shield man, but I understand that you have other occupations, and I simply want to say that your work is respected and that you are welcome here at any time. I would extend a membership to you in a heartbeat.
Danke. Danke schön. Rosa, you notice that Gav is blushing. Like he's truly humbled.
Have you told anybody about Honorine? Or not Honorine, Honor?
They well, I mean, I think it was Len and Honorine certainly know about her. Because they've oh no, it was Hans and Honorine. Because they've been with him both the times that he went, or two of the times that he went to the Hall of Records.
Would Honoree have told Rosa about Anna Lore? Okay, because she was gonna say you should tell her, but
I
if
don't
she
think
doesn't
she
know
would
about,
have. I don't think she would have thought about it. Like she had her moment, and she was like immediately forgot about the person whose feelings she hurt.
we yeah, not knowing that, we should I believe the road is celebrate. It is big deal, see?
I duh. He's
See.
it's pretty clear that Gav is not used to this kind of attention.
Mm. We should celebrate.
I suppose, I mean, everyone is still hurting. I am still hurting.
When we are better, we should celebrate.
Da, da.
Um, so we're gonna move on from here, and I think we're gonna start to move into sort of like the more like so Wilma gets the letter. She like, yes, we're accepting this. I will go back to like finalize the negotiations. Please somebody go burn that red smoke right now. Like, and like from whoever wants to do that, they can see from the top of the tower, forces move into the area. Just like it's over fast. Like whatever fighting goes on, they're overwhelmed, they're outmaneuvered. Um, and there are so Logan Seeger is released from prison, along with Wilhelm Kurtz. Who so kind of like the Wakun like kind of bring everybody that the Inquisition had taken. Does that make sense? So whoever wants to be there at the time that they're released and everything, it's actually at the court, or it's actually at the city hall where Wilma's like kind of main structures are.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could I have tried to remake, like, put Wilhelm's violin back together?
Yes. I will let you make a
Amazing.
craftsman roll for it.
Okay. Damn it, I was gonna up it to 3, but I forgot to talk to you about it before session, so I'll just
This is a
roll.
downtime session. I'm very low key about this. If you have the experience, you want to do it, you may roll 3 dice.
Okay.
So,
It would be 3 keep 2 because my wits is a 2, correct?
yeah, you
Wait, no,
see
that's defense. One sec.
when Logan
My
is
bad.
brought into the room, I'm just gonna kind of continue some narration. Like, Wilma like goes to him, and like you see Logan just like breaks down the moment she embraces him. Does that make sense? Like he clearly seemed to think that she would hate him for everything he did under duress and under torture. Um, and like he melts. Um, and and you hear her apologizing, like, I'm so sorry. I should have kept a better eye on you. I was just caught up in the business of the city. And he's like, no, no, I was taken in. I was at his parties. I felt popular. Um, and Wilhelm, like his hands have been bandaged, but even a casual check from anybody with medicine can tell that he's probably never going to play the violin again. The attribute that goes with the craftsman is just going to be the wits.
Okay, then I need to re-roll that.
Okay. So she should be rolling 5k3 or 5
Yeah.
if yeah. No,
What the fuck?
Yeah.
It was the same roll.
that's fine. It's you have done your very best. You know what I'm saying? It was something that was clearly meant to like never be usable again. It is not at the level where it could probably be played as like a violin like solo, but it is at the level where it could be displayed. Does that make sense? Um, the uh,
He is
Wilhelm
never
is
paying for a beer at the fucking bear house ever.
um,
Violin would almost be in itself a good symbol of rebellion. To just like to display it would be a symbol of I survived this.
um,
Look at me go.
yeah.
And
What are
yeah,
people
that's
doing
probably
when
the
they see
sound
Wilhelm?
folk.
He was obviously tortured as well. You know what I'm saying? But he doesn't look like kind of broken like Logan. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't there long enough for that. He lost the use of his hands, and he's probably gonna need healing just to like be able to like feed himself again and stuff. But everyone's like, "Hey, healing buddy."
I think Gav would, if he was there, I think he wouldn't physically, like, he wouldn't do anything specific, but he would absolutely make sure that his body is being used to give him as much privacy as possible. He's being a wall.
Yeah.
It's you said at the city hall is kind of where they've been
Yeah.
brought.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were other people that were taken, and like so people are being reunited with family members that were lost and stuff like that. Um,
Hans just kind of he's kind of mainly like he's taken up just kind of an instinctive like kind of guard post with his sword pointed to the ground. Once once Seeger and Wilma have kind of had their reunion, he'll walk over and say that it is good to have the true ruler of this place back. He'll he'll kneel and plant his sword and
um, he kind of like I don't.
uh,
I
there
think
is
he needs time to think about whether he wants to shoulder that burden after what has happened to him. And
Says
he
I
needs to be ratified by the other Iron Princes.
that is true.
he looks almost relieved at that, and like he says there will be a ratification.
Indeed.
I think that
Um,
is still up for discussion, but first you need to recover.
yes.
Oh,
So I'll go down and get something warm down your throats and something hard into your gullets.
Thought you were gonna say something else.
Uh, and Wilhelm kind of like he sees that like Rosa looks like she's holding back tears. And he's like, "Come here."
Can Runa, upon seeing him, lightly take his hands and heal a dramatic wound?
Like his wounds have healed over to the point
Okay.
like he's passed. So
And if
That would have
Runa's-
been a very like
And if-
sweet like
I mean, if Runa's still wounded, she's still
no, I think that like she's like travelable at this point. I don't want her to like
Okay.
have to like sit out too much.
Yeah.
So
well, she fixed up his violin to the best of her ability. She wants to be there.
He is now moving under protest.
But he puts an arm around Rosa and he squeezes her. He says, "I still owe you music lessons, but I'm afraid they will have to be theoretical."
I would not expect you to teach me. It is my fault that you are in this mess.
He smiles. He says, "These," and he holds up his hands, "are because I spat in Rosencruz's face."
good. And that's in
He says-
character. Henri says, good. She's like rubbing Rosa's back, but she hates this man. Not Wilhelm. Rosencruz.
He says, "I will make of this a mission to spread music to as many who would hear it as I can in my life."
Runa, seeing that he can't really play, is like holding up the violin that she repaired to the best of her ability.
But I carpentered.
Kind of somberly.
He kind of like reaches out and he touches it. He says, "If you would have me, I would be delighted to be the musical director at the Bearhausen. He says, and this I would like to have over the bar.
Okay.
I think we can agree to this, yes.
See,
We
Um,
would be lucky to have you.
We'd be happy to have you.
I
As-
see
as
Do
much
we have a
of
proper bartender there?
Yeah.
off camera. Louis Claude, you do.
Fantastic. Never mind.
Yeah, there are bartenders, but he says, if you'll have me.
Of course.
grazie.
Um, and he just kind of like puts a hand over his heart and he says, I have kept myself away from the world for a very long time and used my music, he says, to soothe something in my very soul. He says, I never played for others. He says, I played for myself. He says, I have begun to find that what I was missing is not to be found in music.
At least
And
you had a profound personal revelation through all of this. Whatever comfort that may be.
He he dips his head and he says, we'll have more to discuss. I would like to I would like to see about setting up a fund so that during the day the Bearhausen might offer some instruction in music.
Did we
See,
find Tav?
Tav is amongst those who were freed.
That's
and my
good.
landlord?
What's that?
And my landlord?
oh yeah,
Yeah, Waldo.
Oh, and
Waldo
yeah, where's
is there
Waldo?
as
Waldo!
well. Waldo is there as well. Is Honorine hugging him?
She at that moment, like when, oh my gosh. Okay, so Kurtz is having like his little emotional like, I played only for myself and I found, and then all of a sudden there's like a squeal. And she spots Waldo and she's like, you're all right.
Waldo just looks a little like like he's not a big guy. Like I'm just imagining Honorine like kind of like squeezing him and him just like oh, this is what hugging is like.
She 100% is like goes from like very solemnly rubbing Rosa's back to being like, ah! And then like you're all right, and like goes and like in a very unmontainely fashion throws her in a very unhonoring fashion actually, like throws her arms around him and like squeezes and then like realizes what she's doing and then like lets him go. And
Yeah, and he like there's just enough he kind of like returns the hug and he looks like deeply he's like
Confused.
I'm
I've never had a hug.
I'm so sorry that the state of disarray of the house. I tried to stop them from turning everything over. I will have it fixed as quickly as I can.
no, that's I am so sorry that happened here. I understand if you don't. I've been trying to. I can get my things out if you would like, and I can vacate. If it's I realize that because I'm your tenant, you went through so much trouble, and I really liked it for the night I stayed there, and you keep a lovely home, and you like she's burbling. She's definitely burbling.
He's like, and he's like burbling at the same time. She's like, "Oh no, it's not your fault. I resisted the Inquisition. They, you know, he's like,
Is
they
this how
were. It was all right.
feels like
They,
to be
they
Canadian?
weren't. They
I
weren't.
was going to say
like,
it's a Canadian standoff.
They weren't
Yeah.
that mean to me. I was very fastidious about cleaning up my cell, and so then they let me out to clean the other cells as well. It's
Yeah, that
Please
dude's
jail in Freiburg.
honestly, that dude's been raised that's a Canadian, but also a Canadian that's been raised in another extremely polite culture at the same time.
uh,
Like one of
and
those like I'm Canadian, but I've also been like instructed in how to like discipline myself in the proper way. It's just like the overly like even Canadians look at him and go, "That's a bit much, man."
Maybe dial it back 10% there, eh, bud?
and you see the other guy that you knew was kind of like his neighbor who helped him with his most sort of OCD moments, you know what I'm saying, is there as well, and like also embraces him, and Walt was like, oh my God, two in one day. Uh, um,
I would be delighted to go back, but I would never impose upon you.
he says, I meant to tell you. He says, I think I have found your luggage that you mentioned would be arriving. It was being held in the dungeon, so it should be. Um, I don't know when it would be released to general custody.
No, we've all been here a while. Does anyone else feel like breakfast? I'll
Um,
cook.
so the other one is Tav, the very large Usuran who had like rented to Rosa, you know what I'm saying? And um he's like he just gives her an embrace, you know what I'm saying? He's like, I know some things have changed. He says, but uh I'll come find you. We can talk things over.
I'll find you. Oh god.
Uh
Wow.
you and he slipped something to Rosa like before uh they go, which is a scarf that was made for her while she was in the Philly caravans. That was in her home, but like that she had um and he like gives her a wink, and then in Fidelity, before he leaves, he says, I'm glad you found people to look out for you.
Um, I can't look at our own chat now, y'all. Infidelity, she says back, I'm happy that they found me, actually.
Uh he gives a smile at that before he goes. But like the language indicates that he might have been there this whole time to kind of keep an eye on her, make sure she was okay from the caravan that raised her.
Aww.
Honorine is back over to try to hug Rosa now. She's giving more hugs than she's given in months.
In her life.
But
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
like,
Rosa-
she sees Rosa's like emotion. And she's like, oh, hang on, and then goes and like tries to comfort Rosa. They're there.
Okay, so I'm gonna move to some sort of like just one-on-one stuff. I'm gonna try to get one thing at least knocked out for everybody from their list. Um, so let's go with Henri first. So like we have like a month of just stuff happening, things kind of getting back to like an equilibrium of normal. Does that make sense? Um, the there's Anjay teaches, she's like just enjoys kind of talking about natural philosophy, science, like all kinds of things. There's like, she doesn't call it a date, but it's almost like a date where like the building that they're next to is actually like an observatory with like telescopes up on the top of it. And it is like the romantic date night kind of thing. Does that make sense? Like everybody that is there is a couple. And they're like
It's a
taking turns looking at
mixer.
the stars and then like making out, you know what I'm saying? And then looking at the stars. There's like wine. There's a very shy, lovely little astronomer who like does not know how her astronomy nook has become like the romantic scene for like this part of town. Does that make sense? But she's sort of into it. Um, and in it's during that date that she kind of explains something that Honorine keeps in mind for later with the pendant of like the difference between like tree sap and tree resin. Like one is very thin and is sort of almost like the tree's blood that like carries oxygen where it's needed or carries whatever where it's needed, whereas the resin is thicker and is like a coagulation in response to trauma, but is it can be heated and shaped into amber, which will protect whatever is inside of it.
Honorine is fascinated. She wants to know everything about like how tree physiology like works and like the bark, does it dry out, like what, and like she's totally into the conversation.
Yeah, and she like goes over everything she knows, and like there's a limit to her knowledge, but she's like I will find some books for you. And she's also like instructing Honorine in like a number of languages, like working on improving her Eisen, teaching her a little bit of Thean. Um, the There's also like during this period she's finds out that like Tori had like lost a lot of blood and has kind of like poisoned himself and stuff like that, or not like poisoned himself, but like is dealing with like blood loss. Like he describes the volume of blood that's required to make a single dose of the poison, and it sounds like almost a fifth of his blood supply.
You didn't hear me, but I said Jesus Christ because I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
Um, and so he does require help getting back to his actual home. The bookstore where he was at, he owns part of it. And so like he was fine staying there for as long as he needed, but he's happy to get back to his home. It requires a bit of assistance. He and he when she gets into it, he kind of immediately like there's like a kid there, like one of the local street gangs and stuff like that, who like comes out. He's like, I've been feeding everything how you told me to. I had to dip into the extra cash because we ran out of food because you've been gone for a while. And Ettore like, that's fine. Here, and, like he gives him the rest of like the kind of on-hand cash he has for this child. It's like, you take that. You've done a great job. Check back tomorrow. I might need you to come get some more food. And when Honorine like goes into his place, like the place that he goes and checks on first is like a room filled with cages and glass terrariums and stuff like that with like dozens of different poisonous animals inside of them. Snakes, frogs, some insects. Um, the and an alchemical setup that is like more sophisticated than anything she's seen in alchemical shops. There are multiple like mortars and alembics and like heating sources and stuff like that. Like this is not like I casually make poisons now and then. This is like I am a master blacksmith of doing chemistry. Does that make
So I
sense?
heard you want to kill something.
I believe they call that a chemist.
And he
she's following after him or like helping him along or whatever. How long after the fight is this?
a couple days.
Okay, so she's still got like the gross like yellowy like bluing like
Yeah, and like the first day she checked in on him, he kind of made a crack about like uh is there somebody that I have to, defend your honor to, or is this a personal predilection I should be aware of?
I don't kiss and tell. So
Um,
but like as she follows him, she's like, do you have a it was clearly a street gang. It wasn't like his son, right?
right, yeah, it was clearly like a local Eisen kid.
Do you have a hobby or just a friend who has one?
It says let's call it a family tradition.
Just so you know, if you get any ideas that I might like to be poisoned in little tiny bits so that I become immune to it, like please
You're
don't.
too old.
I beg your pardon.
To be poisoned regularly, it needs to start in infancy.
Oh. It
He
just
says,
seems
"Go
that
on."
there are family traditions, and I just wanted to make it very clear.
I mean, are you looking to become a part of my family?
Well, no, not after you said that.
He kind of like, well, Vidaccio very particular about child rearing, and he's absolutely in flirtation mode until his face kind of like, oh yeah, that's like looking a little pained and kind of like slumps against one of the desks. He's like, this is not my best banter. I do offer genuine apologies for any genuine insult I might have offered.
And she'll like soften and she's like, let's get you to your bed. And don't tell anyone I was in your bedroom.
He says, of course not. You were in my laboratory. I shall be mum about any experiments we conducted there.
Just shut up and lean against me.
Oh no, we've accidentally tumbled into the bed together.
Oh my.
But it's very playful.
Yeah.
And he like accepts like her coming to visit on a regular basis. He has named every single one of the poisonous critters that is in here. Many of them bear names that suggest he doesn't hold a ton of his family in great esteem. like Uncle is the name of one of them. And cousin Tiora is another one. He's like, she's mean. Don't try to, that's a 10-second scarab beetle. You don't want anything to do with that.
It seems the Mandavi are as fond of each other as perhaps the Sistusis are.
He kind of.
This is mother. She's not poisonous, but I fucking hate her.
This is my father. He's both.
But he is. He's playful and flirtatious throughout. But kind of near the end of it, he says, I think I understand well now where you and Rosa stand in regard to the Inquisition and the Church in general. Says, and I think there's something that I should speak to the both of you about.
Ettore, I have told you several times I am not introducing you to my sister. She is
I already know your
interested.
sister.
You know what I mean.
She just hasn't met the right Vidachi.
If you can manage to get your own trousers on, I will bring her over for a visit. But you must be able to get your own trousers on.
Is it going to be a requirement for this meeting?
But she's also going to be like, what exactly do you mean? Because I also won't have you upsetting Rosa depending on how much you find yourself in accord with the Inquisition.
Well, I am not in accord with the Inquisition. I would say that we are in a similar place in regards to our feelings about them and their feelings about us.
All right. Do you see the cards and whatnot?
No, I'm a man.
I'm aware of that.
He says, but no, another matter, and I should speak to both of you on it.
Okay. All right. Then she's going to, she doesn't want to worry Rosa, so she's going to be like, I'm going to go visit Ettore and you should come with me. He helped us out very much with the Verschlingen and, you know, he could use the company. Could use some cheering up. Like, I don't know how well Honorine can lie to Rosa, given that she's, like, amazing and psychic.
So
but
let's use this as a little bit of a transition as, like, you're on the way, but, like, the dinner with Len is later tonight.
Okay.
So this is like the time that they have to kind of chat about that as well before they're going to like meet with Ettore. And the Ettore thing is like over lunch. So
Wait, so what's the timeline again?
So we're a few days later,
Right.
and it's like the next day that like the date with Rosa and Len is coming up, and
So
um,
date prep, date, and then next day lunch with Ettore?
no, like
Lunch.
the lunch date prep date. So like any like you were talking about, there was a conversation you wanted to have with Rosa before the date. Now's the time to do it.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, well. Um so Honoриne's going to be extremely excited with Rosa and be like super happy about it and all that stuff and finger foods and yay for that. But she's also going to sort of like kind of during a moment when she's like maybe brushing Rosa's hair or something, be like, Rosa, have you ever been on a date
Yes.
before?
No, I have not.
Have you ever had a kiss that wasn't magical? I mean, not that. Have you ever kissed anyone before if it's not for luck?
I mean, and at this point, she has dropped the accent completely with Honorine. I mean, right before they attacked the bear house, Len kissed me. Does that count?
And Honorine's perfectly happy to like practice her Vidace with Rosa and speak Vidace instead of Aizen because she's better in Vidace anyway. Well, I think she's about the same anyway. But she's perfectly happy to practice her Vidace. So before you go on a date with a man that is very interested in you and very lovely, we should have a discussion about the sorts of things that progress when you continue to go on dates. And she's very carefully, but also very determinedly launching into so you have some bits and you
You do know that the Fideli did teach me this, right?
did they?
Yeah, there was probably like it was probably a very uncomfortable conversation with Grandma Fideli. I was like, so you're getting tits now. The boys will be interested. Like it was just a no nonsense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rosa
And probably with Rosa being as pretty as she is. And she was just like, just be careful.
No, it was like a very specific, like, and this is how, you know, like babies are made
and don't let them
specifically.
tell you that
And
they'll just
and stop rushing and keep making eye contact. I'm not done explaining the details.
I had to listen to the whole thing, so do you.
Yeah. I have here a sausage and a donut. I will now.
Okay, so Honorine when Rosa's like, you know what did she say?
You know the Fideli did give me this talk, right?
Honorine is just like, oh, thank goodness.
Did you
I just
think you
want you to be safe, and I didn't know you're quite innocent. Did you know that?
I do know that, but that's because I haven't ever dated others.
Well, it's just reason that you also hadn't more dated others.
No, I have not been more intimate with others.
Well, just if you become pregnant, I just want it to be your choice, all right?
Thanks, Mom.
I don't believe that's going to happen on the first date.
Listen, there are a number of people that I have known throughout my life in the Montaigne court who thought so. And let me tell you, things can progress quite quickly when the mood is correct.
You-
And then she's going to like kind of come around and put her hands on Rosa's shoulders, and she is going to ask, "Do you still want to be called Rosa?"
It's not safe for me to go by Lucani.
I'm so sorry. If I had another name, I don't remember it, but I can imagine it must be painful for you.
It's been so long. I don't actually remember the other name. I know you said it's Yosa.
Angelina?
For Rosa.
A quick moment. I just need to interject because I needed to clarify something. During the episode that I introduced Honorine and like Rosa as like siblings, I kept referring to them as Mondavis. They are not Mondavis. They're Lucanis. So that was just a complete brain spasm on my part that lasted an entire episode. And I want to address it and like
He's
put it
got
on record.
Vadachi
They're
on the
Lucanis.
brain.
Yeah.
He's got Mondavi on the brain.
Yeah.
He was probably just staring at the Hero Forge of Atori, being like, "Soon, my friend. Soon."
Yes.
Speaking of, we'll kind of move into the lunch with them. Honoree's been in charge of picking up lunch, so whatever she has brought. Ettore is looking very like he's recovering, but he's pale. He's sat up. He's put his pants on himself. And there's some banter like during the first parts of it and stuff like that. But he kind of quickly comes to says, "You should know that I know a bit more about you, Rosa, than you might think that I do."
See?
He says, "When I was quite young, I went with my mother and my father to an estate within the Lucani lands, which had burned to the ground by the Inquisition, hunting for survivors."
Interesting. All right.
Hunting for survivors because that branch of the family was related to my own.
Henri's like, in her head, "I may have made a terrible mistake."
He says, generations after a generation after the Mad Queen Marietta was defeated, the family split into two surviving branches, the Bianco and the Serrano. The Bianco were most noted for their aptitude with Strega, the Serrano for their aptitude with poisons, but both hailed from the same bloodline. And the last surviving Bianco that I was aware of perished in that fire. But my family did not give up hope that there might be survivors and spent years looking for them. It says that journal you were gifted would only ever be openable by somebody of your blood.
Interesting.
Well, we knew she was special.
I wish to hide it no longer, but obviously I have no interest in anyone else knowing any more than you do.
If I didn't know, if I was sure, let me say it that way, that the Inquisition was no longer in Freeburg, I would go by my true name.
So I'm out of character asking. We're like 30 minutes out and I haven't got anywhere near what done what I wanted to. Would you guys like to plan on doing another downtime session or would you like to extend like an hour? How are people holding up?
A little longer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna cut from there to over to Len. And then we'll do the date between Rosa and Len. However much of it you guys want to do on camera. Does that make sense? Like, and it's totally fine if you want to have like a large part of it just be like, there is Smoochie talking.
Fade to black and sax music, baby.
Um, Len has spent quite a bit of time with Falk Fischler. Falk is also recovering from his injuries.
Henri has 100% been like, so Len, who's your friend with the helm?
And he would introduce Honorine and Falk just to see what happens.
Falk is like, okay. Falk is a guy who is like, first of all, he was a peasant who has become an Iron Prince. It's been many years and he still isn't used to it. He still isn't used to like having that. But there are moments where you can see that like the responsibility is taken extremely seriously and his actions are extremely carefully considered. But there are other times where he's like, whoa, I am a fisherman who is talking to a very pretty girl. It's just sort of like charmingly nervous. Does that make sense? Especially for somebody who is a duke, effectively, from Honorine's assessment. Um, he does invite Honorine to like a fish date, which he explains is like they go fishing together.
Oh, okay.
Like he's like, there's some lovely bridges in the town, and you can catch fish very easily off of them.
Yes, that kind of fish date sounds delightful.
Yeah. So, however, but when speaking with Len, he like his focus is a little bit more on like, okay, so all of the Iron Princes save one have responded that they're on their way. It says Von Wish has I've received a reply. You didn't. Are you good to go for an extra bit of time? You didn't thumbs up
Yeah,
about going later, and I know you've got work and stuff tomorrow, so.
Yeah, so it depends on how later is later. Are we talking
I
like
was thinking
one
like
more hour?
an hour over
Okay.
what we normally do.
An hour over.
We're at like
be
2 hours now, or sorry, like another hour from now. So like we'll do another hour total.
Okay, 1 hour total. Yeah, I was like an hour past when we normally land, so an hour and a half or more. That would be too much.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just plan on that, and thank you for the reminder, Honorine. Glory helps me keep on track. So he's like, I have not spoken with many of them face to face more than once or twice. He says, but we should definitely have an appropriate reception prepared, and I suspect most of them will be at least bringing a token amount of their honor guard, which is still going to be hundreds of soldiers for each.
Yeah, that's and then we've got the whole, and then we have the whole Usuran army thing on the way too.
I've had no word from Kithrinia beyond that she intends to arrive soon.
And just out of character, remind me, is she fleeing the army or is she coming with the army?
He's like, I don't know where. She sent a letter that arrived that she was on her way. I don't believe she's traveling with Montague, but I think she might have helped him to escape. I'm not entirely sure. She didn't want to commit a lot of it to writing.
That's understandable, but knowing her, she did help him to escape, and that's why they are now running, even if that little shit Ilya is finally dead.
He very seriously he's clearly kind of like grappling with something. He says, I know Kithrinia still has some feelings for you.
This is not surprising. We were almost something, but that something would have gotten us killed, or at least gotten me killed quite horribly. And let's face it, the princess was always going to be beyond a man like me.
During the first few years that she was the guest of the Gaius, before Ilya, she wrote about you more than Ilya.
Yes, this is. I was not blind to her affections, but for our own safety, I could not really acknowledge them either. I feared that I hurt her, and that was never an intention, but we
My
could not be, and we cannot be. My heart is with someone who I'm still teaching to read, Eisen, but someone very wonderful, someone very brave, and someone who I am going to strap weights to if she tries to give herself back up for the good of the group again or something. But we'll work those things out as we
He
go.
says, I know who you're talking about. I've seen the way you look at her every time she walks into a room.
Yes.
He says, but I wanted you to know because my sister credits her survival during those years to your presence. Not that she still kept a sense of herself and did not simply succumb to the place that she was held in. And I wanted to say that regardless of whatever happens between you and my sister or doesn't happen, one, she is a mature woman and she will understand whatever your feelings are, but I suggest you be honest about them and quickly.
Of course.
He says, and second, he says, you have my debt. And I do not have much, but I do have the most prosperous farmlands in Eisen at the moment. And on behalf of Fischler, I am willing to formalize a trade with Freeburg, one that should keep you fed through the winter.
That is more than I could have possibly asked for. We will need to take this to Herr Proust, because I cannot make agreements on behalf of the city, but I am certain that she will be more than happy to sign off on that.
We'll expect fair
Frau
pay,
Proust.
but not exorbitant. He says, and if there are those within the city willing to take on the cost of transporting food and fish, then we would offer even less. The majority of the costs would be in transportation.
I think we can arrange that too, possibly. I am not a logistics guy. I have a big pointy stick and apparently a great ass. These are the things that I do.
We will do that.
Yeah.
So would you guys like to do your date as like the cold open of the next episode? Or would you like to
Let's
have it now? Since there's still former people to get to, is why I'm asking.
Let's get other people on the board for this week, and then we can do the cold open date. I've got a whole thing planned for it. So
okay, great. That I want to give that the time that I feel that it deserves. So
Oh God.
okay, so Runa has been having a time going back and forth between like the bear house and her home. Does that make sense? Like there were a couple days she was just getting carted by a few of the workers at the house and and that has like fallen off. But like on like the first week that she's on her way, it starts kind of slowly, but then it builds with each passing day of like when she is walking by Orenson's shipyard. The time that she goes seems to be the time that they all have agreed to like take their lunches. Does that make sense? And like there's probably more vested men employed at this one shipyard than like anywhere else in the city. And they all just sort of arrange themselves to watch her go by. There's no catcalling. There's no like like you don't catcall vested women. They own axes, right?
Yeah. Don't catcall Veston women because they'll kill you. Or they can.
There is, however, on like the fourth day that she's going by, she's consistently smelled things that she like smell familiar to her, like smoked trout and like honey glazed vegetables and specifically like skyr, which is like a form of like yogurt that's made from sour milk that preserves really well. And it's been like just sort of like stomach rumbling every time she goes by. You know what I'm saying? And
she's been so homesick, guys.
And
but her home is a ship.
The bear house is coming along. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like a lot of like work to be done. But like as she goes by, she sees one of the men. She recognizes him as like the owner. He's Jairus. He's this man carries tree trunks over an arm. You know what I'm saying? Like on the way
Yeah.
to making ships. He's big. He's huge. And he kind of like
Beef indeed.
invest in, he says, beauty to try to get her attention.
Can I help you?
I didn't know your name. He says, but he looks like kind of like at a loss for words.
As he's like stumbling to find words, she just goes, Runa.
Bruna. Says Jairus. And he offers a hand.
She'll shake his hand.
He says, we made something for you. Like there's just like a little like sack lunch of like the things that they've been eating and like enough proportion for her.
Thank you so much. I will enjoy this.
Thank you. Since you work at the bear house, yes?
I do.
He says, what do you do there? You don't like he kind of like you're not like one of the performers. It's like clearly like the thing he's thinking about, but he just like can't bring himself to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No insult if you do.
I don't. What is her job title?
She's the technical director.
I'm the technical director. I do a lot of building, actually.
Says we saw that the bear house and needed a lot of work.
Yes.
Says you're vested. He says my crew says we'd be happy to chip in and help for a few days.
There's a lot of work to do, so that would be very much appreciated.
Says call it even if you have lunch with us.
I can do that.
See him kind of like go back to his voice, and there's like, oh, yes, you know, and like they're all kind of like it's like a little bit of like arm thumping, like like trying to keep it cool while she's still there. You know what I'm saying? But like his boys are like,
a Vestan woman. She just laughs to herself.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like it is not the finest cooking in the world. This is like, but he's been cooking for himself for a while, and he knows what he's doing. And you think he's actually cooks for everybody else there. So like he's making the meal for them, and he made an extra portion for her. And like over the course of the next month, he makes an extra portion for her every day, and he's always like there, just kind of like. Whether she's available or not. And his guys like show up and like for all of the really heavy lifting, putting up new supports, rebuilding parts that were burned down and stuff like that, they're maniacs. Like it's a nice change from boat building for them.
Do they like, she'd definitely be helping with it, but she's like, I barely have to do anything.
Yeah, and like since she's injured, and there's like definitely a lot of like, oh no, I'll get that heft. Flex.
Also, I imagine there's a certain amount of wow, gotta watch the show.
Yeah,
well,
like
when every time she
might
goes
be
to
rolled
grab
up more
something,
than they need to be. Yeah, like
whenever she goes to grab something, they're like, "We'll get that for you. You go sit." She's just like, she does watch.
Yeah, and like day 3, Sora has totally joined in on the watching. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's like,
and them just keep benching her, and she's like, well, if I can't do anything else.
Yeah. And Sora is like, he likes you.
Which one?
She's like the one in charge. I mean, I think they all like you, but they like you. And he really likes you.
He is a pretty man. I'd assume I haven't seen this guy.
Or you put in the Honorine is joining the Beefcake admiration.
When she can, yeah, she's joining the audience.
Every time Ruta goes to do something, Honorine's like, sit down. Sit down, watch.
No,
and like
Honorine...
they are happy to do that as well. Like it's just kind of like whatever she's trying to pick up, they're like, no, like you have earned a warrior's rest.
There's always someone available to do that somehow, and Runa's just like,
yeah, no, Honoриne's like, reach for that one. Go reach. We need someone back over here.
See, that's
maybe the one with the cute ass will pick it up. What? That didn't pop in my mouth.
He
Vestin's ass
is like,
is in the bear house.
and having joined him for lunch a couple of times, you have the impression that this is a man who has like never been shy in his life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Who
And he
finds a
is with
hard
her.
time finding words around Rona.
That's really cute.
Um, and you get like the story of him. He is a he was never like one of the like going a Viking. You know what I'm saying? Like he helped build ships in his village, and
With them,
um,
is there any recognition that she is her mother's daughter?
no, he
Oh,
doesn't like
interesting.
off of but there's a lot to the archipelago. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um,
I just know that a
and
lot of people know her mom
yeah, and like so
or know
his
of
his
her.
village wasn't like taken over or like anything. It was just sort of like bought out by the Vendel. Like their culture expanded, and like he just sort of like, I'm not into it, and
Okay.
he left. It wasn't like at sword point. There was no blood involved. You know what I'm saying? But he knows some of his crewmen very much blood involved. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Um, and it's like for now, it's kind of a still thing of like they did as much help with the Bearhausen as they really could. And he shut down his operations for as much as he could afford to, but like they are still watching every time she goes and every time she comes back. Like, well, no, she comes back very, very late. They're all like off to work. You know what I'm saying? But like you have noticed him outside of his shop a few times late at night around the time he's seen her coming back.
Occasionally she will like if there are extra pastries at the bear house, she'll grab an extra one and give it to
Um,
him because he's always there.
yeah, and Sora very quickly becomes a like, so you guys talk again today? She's clearly like standing the whole or shipping the whole thing. And
Ship.
Only she?
uh and like Brandy doesn't understand what's going on, but she can tell there's something she's not allowed to hear about, and so she's like doubly intrigued by it. Um the first time he kind of sees Runa with Brandy, there's like oh, is she yours? She looks just like you.
Oh, no. She's her cousin's.
Um, yeah, that's like so, like have you had any children or
I haven't.
one day interested maybe?
We'll see.
Um, he kind of nods. He's like, it would take the right person.
It would.
Um, and it's the
How old is he, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
he's probably like a solid 8 years older than her. Does that make
That's
sense?
fine.
Um,
She's an adult.
uh, but it's it's like while he's there, he's just kind of like showed up like after dinner with like another meal. Does that make sense at the Bearhausen? That uh Veronica like helps Kavi, the dwarven blacksmith, in. He does not look well.
Oh,
He's pale and sweating and um
she has gone to him, by the way, and told him that Jor is dead.
yeah, and
She
he's been
wouldn't have
having
left him without that information for so long.
that's fair. And he kind of like, I need to have a talk with you.
Of course.
Um, and he kind of like waits until they can be in like a back room. Um,
Is this private?
yeah,
She's
he,
gonna activate her Omen rune.
yeah. He kind of says, well, not for those reasons. This is, um, I don't think I have long for this world. Says each day getting out of bed is harder. Says each day going to my forge is harder.
Is there anything that can be done?
I'm I I think mostly what I have is age. Says in a hard-lived life. Says, you are as close to family as I have.
Dying of old really got me.
Uh, he says, my shop isn't much. He says, my home isn't much, but I want you to have them.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to spend the next few weeks, says, writing some letters, those that I think might need them. Says, I'd appreciate whatever company you have time to offer during that time.
I'll be there.
And like it's like over the course of the month that he like grows sicker and sicker each day. Does that make sense? During that time he does his best at like he writes and he draws and he fills out journals of like some of the techniques of blacksmithing and stuff that he understands and knows and have like been passed on to him. And is like filling it out for her. Does that make sense? The house isn't much, it's not huge. You know what I'm saying? The shop is like mostly in his backyard and there's a lot of equipment, but like all of Veston blacksmithing is really designed to be so we can quickly build a forge wherever we go. And there's a few things that we take with us. So it's not designed for like a huge shop. It's not designed for like all of the extras that like Mac had. Does that make sense? Um the knowledge that Jor is dead kind of like seems to be the thing that like he had been holding on to keep going. Does that
Shouldn't
make
have
sense?
told him.
Well, and no, like, but there's a piece to him now. Does that make sense? He asks her about her mother, you know, about the other crew members of the Revenge, what she knows, like
And she
who.
tells him all she knows.
Yeah, and he has like what rights there are to be had for those that they know to be dead who might never have been buried. You know what I'm saying? Saying words for them, kind of like doing his best to like put them at peace. And also at the same time, teach her the rights that she'll need to know to bury him. Does that make sense?
Really sad.
Um, and like it's just a thing where when she kind of goes in one day to like check on him, he is gone in his sleep. And she had seen him the day before, like hurting, like coughing frequently, you know, barely able to get out of bed, struggling to kind of finish the journal that he was working on. Um, and uh, with that, you know, she has to take care of the funeral and the last processions. Um, I don't know if she's shared any of this with Joris, the boat, but they're happy to be there just so that he's like buried amongst Veston.
Yeah, she would have asked them to be there at the least, and maybe if she'd tell him if he noticed something was wrong and asked her about it.
Um, and he kind of, I was young when I left, says, but I think as long as you honor them, that's what's important. And remember always their name.
Always.
Um, uh, yeah, and the following day, there's like a present that is left on her doorstep that she's guessing is from Jairus because he's the only other person she knows who's like a really talented woodworker and it would mean something to, in which his Kavi's name is inscribed on the handle of a blacksmith's hammer, like a new replacement handle, and it's written in runes. So,
That's adorable.
um,
She'd go and thank him.
uh, he kind of smiles. He says, we have to remember the fallen, however we can.
I agree.
It's less and less of us to remember each day.
Unfortunately, that is the case.
Um, my timing might be terrible, but would you like to go out on a boat sometime?
Absolutely.
And she has like it is definitely a date. Like he takes one of like the new boats that have just been finished. They always do test runs with them to make sure there's no leaks or anything like that. It ends up kind of comical because it has leaks. So
Yeah.
what might be extremely romantic is a lot of bailing and getting it back to land.
She does mention that she misses being on the water.
Um, he's like, well, let's try that again some other time with better
For
boat.
sure. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna move on now to we had a bit of a scene with Gav earlier, but you also have the trial of the Krauses. And I want to know, Felix is there with a new glove courtesy of Honorine that has like little metal plates over it that make it look as close to Gav's hand as it can be done. That he very much enjoys, but is its own um its own impersonation, and already the other members of the gang are like clamoring to get one of their own. Felix has the coolest accessory in Isenganglander there
Oh
is.
Gav gives him a little fist bump when they meet up with the Cernith hand.
Question. So would if Honorine tried to give Gav that glove because she had it made a couple episodes ago, and been like, "Hey, will you give this to your little friend?" Would he have taken it, or would he have been like, "Give it to him yourself," or what?
I think what had happened is, yeah, you had given it to him, and then like a couple of days later you saw Gav walking around, and then he had it on, like Felix was wearing it, following him around.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and Felix is very impressed by it. He's also become like, he's like the little organizer of like the gangs, but he specifically is like in Feinehearth. But like the other sort of kid gangs and whatnot have sort of formed de facto alliances with his. Does that make sense? And he's become a little tiny gang leader.
They don't scrap for food, they share it, stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometimes they take honest work too, but they try not to let anybody know about that.
Ruins their cred.
Thanks for helping me lift these boxes. It'll be our little secret.
Um, so the Krauses have been put to trial. There are a ton of witnesses against them, not just Honorine, but like a lot of common folk who have seen them killing other commoners up in the Philosopher's Stone. Um, there are some issues because legally, like there's no like framework. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of being set up as they go. Um, because Trog had insisted that there were no laws in Freeburg. And murder was always handled like by each guard station. The Krauses are insisting that they should be handled by the station that's in the Philosopher's Stone, that they should only be tried by like a jury of their peers, which is the other nobles. And this is the first time there's really been sort of like a crossover between different courts in which the nobles didn't have the political power and the capital and the will to like have their people brought in and tried in their own courts.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And so there's definitely like a concern that this is setting up further conflict. Does that make sense? And Wilma would like to see it handled in a way that is reducing the conflict between the major powers of the city, all things told. And a solution is offered by their lawyer, which is that there is an impartial judge who's often used to to see to like business dealings between two business folk, and like everybody accepts that their word is law. Does that make sense? Like they go into it with the agreement that this person will be neutral and will accept whatever the outcome is. Does that make sense? They've never been used for something criminal or murder before, but the solicitors are willing to accept it so long as it means that they actually get like a day in court and not just like publicly executed with no more than accusations.
Are they actually known to be Like, is the judge actually known to be neutral, or is it like an arbiter?
Yeah, because they're basically buying a business. They're basically running a business, and that business is I am neutral. Does that make sense? If they repeatedly sided with the people who paid them the most, nobody would use them. So
What do you think, Gav?
Honestly, Gav's idea was to deliver some street justice while they were still in the stocks. Um, and then let the city have their justice. If he's not able to give him and Felix like 10 minutes alone with these two losers, then he would probably attend the trial.
okay.
Speak on
If
Felix.
Gav wants to like pay off a guard and get 10 minutes alone with him beforehand, he can. I'm just kind of letting him know that there are thoughts about it. Does that make sense? And there is something powerful about nobles who have never really faced this kind of justice before doing so publicly.
Honoring will contribute to the paying off of the guards if Gav chooses that route.
Then we'll do the same. Or they could always be mauled to death by bear in cage. It's big mystery. Nobody knows what happens. Just sudden bear murder.
See what Gav thinks.
I think honoring would very much be like, I have personal justice owed to me because of the injury they gave to me, and unfortunately Felix does not, but I'm willing to
Felix
that.
has that bitch almost killed him.
Right. No, so what honoring is saying is that if Felix were to level the same charges, even though he was hurt worse, it wouldn't carry the same weight as honoring saying this person stabbed me, because honoring is right or wrong worth more to their peers.
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying that although Felix deserves justice for his own sake or revenge or whatever he chooses, like honoring saying like, I will pursue the case against them if that's what you would like to do. If not, I will give you whatever gilder you need to do whatever Felix wants. Whatever you guys feel is right. This is not my home. This is not my city. Well,
Gav's telling me to brand the bitch. But yeah. There has to be an example made. The Krauses have been doing this for far too long. Like you said, it's been quite some time that they've been predating on the poor. And given Gav's history, recent events notwithstanding, he's kind of on the side of he doesn't think the courts will be doing anything.
Okay, so given that, and I'll mute again in a second, but given that, Siosa, Honoриne's going to work on moving propaganda around or whatever she can do, that the nobles had their chance and they did not bring these people to justice. So now they face street justice. And it is the Philosopher's Stone's fault for not bringing them before their peers first.
Okay. So what happens is it's late evening, probably. I don't think Gav did it on purpose, but it would probably be like a day or two before the trial, if not the night before. He goes to the guard, hands them a sack of gilder, a warm package of meat and bread, and some a thing of beer with a cap on it, so you still got the foam. Tells him to take a break and to leave the keys. He opens the cell. Him and Felix walk in. Good evening, Herr Krause, Fräulein Krause. The
Um,
trial has begun.
um, and Felix is with him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Um,
kind of sitting off to the side. Gav told him, he's like, you will know your part when it is right time.
um, yeah, he's watching, and the Kraus is he says you have no authority to try me.
He comes down close. I have every authority. The street does not have many rules, but one of them is you don't hurt the children.
Um, he says the world has rules. The powerful rule the weak.
And then he grabs Herr Krause's sword arm, the fingers, with his Cernith hand, and closes his fist.
Okay. Yeah, and he screams, there's like clear pain. Um,
And while
the
he's screaming, Gav turns to Felix. He's like, the problem with snakes is they always have a weapon. Your first job when dealing with a snake is to disarm them.
um the and Felix is watching, he's not interrupting. You can tell this is going to be a very formative memory for him.
And once Krause is quieted down, that is the first lesson. Now, the problem is, I've heard many things. And one of the things I have learned is that monsters like you travel in pairs, and he backhands Carmela.
Um yeah, and she has no fighting skills beyond her throwing ability, which she currently has, so she's down uh on the ground, kind of like gasping in surprise, and clearly just like not used to pain at all. Um,
It
so
is not so entertaining when it does not happen to someone else, now is it?
um and Kraus kind of like, if you were any kind of man, I would not be in shackles and I would have a blade.
If you were any kind of man, I would have killed you where you stand.
Um,
Shut up. Boom. In the solar plexus.
yeah.
This
Uh,
lesson is not for you.
uh, yeah, and you can see Felix kind of like flinching through all of it. He he like looks away, but he kind of like forces himself to look back. Both of them are kind of, surprised in the moment. Um, and uh Felix, I mean, like he's definitely looking uncomfortable. Like he knows this is on his behalf. He remembers the pain he was in and everything, but like he's struggling with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And now that, Friedrich is collapsed on the ground, he stands over Carmela, who is on her stomach, and he tears apart a piece of her shirt so that her shoulder is exposed. And he holds a knife, handle first, to Felix. This is your revenge. So that every time she feels the hand on her back, she knows what she did. But it is your choice.
Says I've thought about this a lot. He says, uh, I don't I don't want her to hurt. I want to I want everyone to see what she is when they look at her.
You sure?
He kind of he you remember the tattoo set that he tried to tattoo his own hand with?
Mhm.
He takes it out. Says, I thought the thing that I wanted, he says, was to write on her face that she tried to kill a child. He says, I'm not sure now.
Gav like stares at him intently for a good 30 seconds. You are a better man than I, Felix. Remember this day. And you remember the streets have shown you mercy.
Um, yeah, and
Every step you take.
Carmela looks far more alarmed at at the prospect of like having her face tattooed. Um, she's squirming, trying to fight, everything like that. But Gab has the
150
power to
pounds of Gav is not letting her move.
um so the we're going to kind of cut forward to the end of it. I don't really care to play out all of something
No,
torturous
that's
like
fine.
that, you know. And at the end, Gav is, Felix is outside, kind of like, he's like, it doesn't, I thought it would feel better.
I understand. It does not always make it better.
He says, it's not about me, is it?
It is about the many things. He hurt you. They deserve to pay. I do not allow it.
Um, the cutting forward over the course of the next 3 weeks, there is a trial. Um, the public tattooing of Carmela's face gets a certain amount of like sympathy. Does that make sense? But there's none for Friedrich. Uh, he is hung after the time, and Carmela leaves the city after he is. Um, it's surprising and it's somber. Um, Friedrich went to his grave spitting that, they had no right to try him. They were not of noble blood. Um, that the nobility would not stand for this action. And the rumors, the word that Honorine has been spreading is taken up by like the Freiburg Gazette. Um, and there's a letter from the editor, which is a public call for a standard of laws and a standard of justice for at least some of the largest crimes. We would be fine with three, like arson, rape, and murder. Make laws against them. Like you don't have to do more than that. But let's, a civil society requires a degree of civility. And there's like a mixed feeling to it. Does that make sense? Because like Freiburg's entire identity sort of stems from its lack of law. And but it's like it's moving through the city. Like this is clearly going to be something that has to come to a decision either way. And that Logan Seeger, if he becomes the Iron Prince, or whoever takes his place, is going to have to decide to implement some basic level of law or continue to follow in Trog's footsteps. Does that make sense? In which case, this kind of street justice will be much more than norm. So, um,
Get wrecked, scrub.
um, we are 10 minutes from close. I'm gonna go to Hans now. Hans has like peaceful sleep for the first time in what feels like months.
Finally.
For the first few days. And then he has another kind of dream about the Shadow Man that he has not experienced since he was with Otto. It's a very different kind of like being taken into the Shadow Man's embrace. Um, and like hearing that man whisper that he is proud of Hans in his ear before waking.
Huh.
Um, there is plenty to do in Hans's waking hours. That's, like a thing that's kind of going on in the background. The guards from Kelby Loring,
Oh, yeah.
incredibly helpful. They're uh and there's also sort of like the whole sort of like suite of justice that's like rolling through because of Gav's actions. Does that make sense? That it's like, it's like the poor folks are definitely a lot more like, we don't really have the authority to implement these things. We would like to see it. Um, whereas the rich are like much less interested in having such a codified system of laws. Does that make sense? But they've always been able to buy their own justice. So
Yeah.
but you also have some problems because that whole night where everybody got real excited about like Redmen leaving and they started burning buildings to the ground didn't go super well in Fine Hearth. The place has
Yeah.
long been a fire trap.
Now there are trees everywhere.
Yeah.
There are more, which helps, but there's just sort of a lot of like aftermath and repair and stuff like that. Like people who legitimately lost their housing and stuff. So the uh the guard have been busy and Hans has been busy, but like the difference is he has like a restful reprieve at night. Does that make sense? He also has a standing offer from Kelby Loring of like if you ever want to like talk strategy, practice, I have a chessboard and I have a unit that I'm happy to put through maneuvers. Like we can do it both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll
Um,
totally take him up on that.
yeah, and so like there's a slow friendship and respect kind of building between the two of them. Um, the Kelby is a man of like extreme seriousness. You know what I'm saying? His jokes are so rare that they almost always catch people off guard. Does that make sense? Like, wait, did he? Oh shit, he made
Wait.
it. It's
Wait a
actually
minute, he
kind of
has a
funny, but
sense of
it's like
humor?
5 minutes later. You know?
Oh fuck, he's smiling.
Yeah.
Um, he's happy to offer some tips on like how to help the puppers, and you know what I'm saying. Um, so we're like 9 minutes out from closing, and I still need to do Arthur. There's another thing. There's like a lot of, so we're definitely moving into a second downtime after this. So next episode is going to be the calm before even more calm. But um, the uh, Loring is like surprisingly easy to talk to. Like as a commanding officer, he's almost like what you would have wanted from Heelgrund. Does that make sense? Somebody that you could walk in, you could talk to, you could explain some of your difficulties, you know what I'm saying? And he's the like, I believe that you can handle this yourself. If I was in your shoes, I'd try this and this. Does that make sense? But like,
Yeah.
um, but one of the first things that Hans is really learning is like it's important to empower your officers. And it's something that he never got under Hilgrund. Hilgrund was like, why haven't you told me about this? This is all your fault. Does that make sense? It's like
Yeah.
it's for once seeing what it's like to actually serve under a good commander, and what it would be like. But like Loring's like, no, you're your own commander. I'm like, you're not under my command, you know. Um the and kind of he has books that he recommends. He has battles that he suggests that he study. Like Hans is kind of clear, like the place that he's gotten through his nightmares is a place where he can lead under stress. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
placing him under that kind of stress isn't really necessary anymore. What he needs now is like knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, some practical experience will still be helpful, but a lot of like what he's done um, is he's gotten to a point where he actually like sort of feels comfortable in command.
Yeah.
And Um, Loring says, "Do you know about the two schools of strategy in Eisen?"
I mean, I've probably heard about it at some point. A lot of that past knowledge is a blur to me at this point. Could you could you refresh me a little bit?
There's style, which is the art of leading from the front, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
It's of being an example to your men and something that they try to emulate. And then secondarily, there's Una Wenbar, where you understand that your role is to make the hard choices and to decide who's going to die. Both of them have their merits. No war is won without sacrifice. And style sometimes find that they are unable to make the sacrifices in the time that they need it. And Una Wenbar sometimes finds that it lacks the trust of its troops because they know they are expendable.
The best is to somehow make a combination. But I mean, that's
But that sacrifices both strengths and both weaknesses.
indeed, it makes for even more. It puts even more of a weight on the commander either way.
Um, One of the things that you need to do now is decide what kind of commander you'll be.
Indeed. It will take some thinking. You've given me quite the assignment. Oh.
I think you'll do just fine.
Yeah, I appreciate your confidence, and I appreciate all that you've done to.
Do you know how
Bolster
many
my
people
ability.
have beaten me on the field of battle?
I
Two.
recall it is very few.
One of them is named Hans Ulrich, and the other was named Fauner Posen.
He kind of he pales a bit at the mention of Posen again, and that comes as no surprise to me. Posen is an
She is
anomaly.
damned terrifying, is what she is.
Indeed.
Says, and if she cared for the troops under her, I would have gone to work for her in a moment. Says, no woman understands needing to keep a distance from their troops and make hard choices better than Fauner Posen. Do you know what she did after the war ended? And every Konungrik was crowded with Wassen.
I was a bit indisposed at that time. What did she do?
She put the Wassen to death.
All of them.
All of them. Young, old, men and women. It's not a decision I could ever make.
Certainly not.
Sorry, to remind those of us, who are the Vossen again?
They're the orphans who are like they've gone oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Catatonic?
Yeah. They're catatonic. They're largely cared for by family members and stuff like that. They don't respond to anything. They just eat and drink and prompted and sometimes respond to like the things in their head, but like not to the outside world. There's a deluge of them in the area around Freeburg, like thousands.
Jeez.
How she justified that to herself is beyond me.
There was a rebellion against her over it, to put that down to.
I would hope so.
I've never met a harder woman. Says it's as
That's
much
what he said.
compliment as it's as much compliment as it is criticism. I know I could never serve under her command.
That would be must be a challenge for many who do. I must be going. Unfortunately, I've still so much goddamn work to do. But thank you, truly. I I appreciate the time and teaching. This is somewhere I could somewhere I feel I probably would have never made it on my own.
Kind of chuckles. He stands and he rises and he kind of like clasps his hand. There's like a moment where Hans thinks that Kelby Loring might be looking at him in a way that, like, other than like as another commander or a friend. Like it's just like it's you get the impression that he's like checking him out, like might lean in, you know what I'm saying, but is like a little too much ingrained caution, a little too much holding himself back. Does that make sense? He
That's
says,
fair.
"It's good to see you again. We should spar sometime."
He'll reach up and kind of like gently pat his cheek a bit, and indeed, and kind of as he's leaving, you know, tis not wartime anymore. There's tis much safer.
It is.
He'll smile as he leaves.
And after Hans steps outside of the tent, and Loring likely thinks that he's out of earshot, Hans hears Loring like, "Damn." Um, but that's where we're going to close off for the night. We're at 3 hours now, and people have work, and I could play with everybody for like 6 hours. But
So much more we can do. I love this
there's
game.
so much more. I know somebody like Arthur. I didn't get to do another scene with you, and I'm fully intending to do it. But during the next part, we still have the feast with Louis Claude. We have a bunch of stuff to get through still. But it's like a month that things are happening. So.
I'm supposed to see you guys for like 2 weeks.
So we will see everybody again on Sunday. And I'm gonna close out fairly rapidly here so that we can get people off to bed. I've already kept them up late. Here at Dirty 20, we have a saying that if you can't be nice, be kind. In the world that we live in, even that can be a challenge, but please rise to it. We will see you again in a week. And thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash the like and subscribe and leave a comment. It's great for the algorithm. If you're watching here live, thank you so much for being here. It means so much to us. So we'll see you all in a week.
Good night.